Today, we are going to be bringing you a special guest, somebody who has 21 years of medical device sales experience.
That's the beauty of being in med device and working for these large organizations. Once you're in, you're in. Man, you can start out as a clinical and become the CEO of the company. You can start out as a sales rep and become the CEO.
When I left and I started this full time and everyone's like, why would you do this? I'm like, well, because I can always go back, but I won't be able to look back at my life and say, I wish I would have.
There's been times in my career where something happened and at the time it was catastrophic and I just thought it was just gonna be terrible. And then looking back, it was the best thing that ever happened to me.
What do you feel your biggest takeaway is at this point? And what's a takeaway you hope to have here in the future? Welcome back to New to Medical Device Sales. I am your host, Jacob McLaughlin, and my friends, today we are going to be bringing you a special guest, somebody who has 21 years of medical device sales experience, somebody who has climbed the ranks and not only come from an associate sales rep and worked at the big W-2 medical device companies, but has also done the distributorship world, has done the startup world, and is now, over the last 21 years, become a true expert and is now the vice president of sales for an amazing technology that is pre-FDA approved. And we are going to be able to learn from Angelo Mastrio today, who's going to be able to share so much insight. And I promise you all that you will learn so much. So please get your notebooks ready and let's get into a podcast with a true medical device sales legend, Angelo. How we doing?
I'm doing well, man. That was a very nice intro. Thank you.
Well, no, I've been telling everybody how excited I am for this podcast because just going back a little bit, I went through my LinkedIn messages and a couple years ago, I sent you a message when I was still at Medtronic and I was like, hey, I'm starting to look at other spaces. And you were nice enough to get on a call with me. And that's where our relationship started. And then I've just been able to watch your journey over the last several years. But also it's been fun to just see the success of the companies you're at. And now you're vice president. So I'm really excited to dig deep into your journey. But can we go into a little bit of who you are? Like, who is Angelo? How'd you get started in medical device sales? How'd you even get to where you knew what medical device sales was and go from there?
Fair enough. Apparently I'm a underdressed VP of sales, but that's all right. I was born in the East Coast in Connecticut, 1979. So I was born in the 70s, which is crazy to say nowadays. And, my parents were divorced before I even remembered, real young, about 2 years old. My father was a professional musician and then also an entrepreneur. My mom was a waitress and she worked in offices and stuff like that. And I had a typical East Coast upbringing in Connecticut. Snowball fights in the wintertime and sledding and playing ice hockey and stuff like that. My father had moved out to Las Vegas when I was about 2. And from about 3 years on, I would split time. So I would come out to Las Vegas and spend the summer with my dad. And then I go back to Connecticut and be back there during the school year. And so when I got to be about 11, 12 years old, I wanted to live with my father, and so made the decision to move out to Vegas. And so I went to school out here, went to last year of elementary school, and then obviously middle school and high school out here. So Vegas is kind of where I'm from.
Yeah.
Nobody in my family at the time had ever gone to college, and so it was really important for me to go. And so I had kind of set my mind on that. I ended up going to college up in Northern Nevada, up in Reno, University of Nevada, Reno. And I was a business major in pre-law as well. And so I minor in business and then pre-law. And I wanted to go to law school, had a great time in college, and then was on that track. And then I had to move back to Vegas. My father, it's funny, I've told this story a million times, and I've always said my father got sick when I was a senior in high school or in college. It's not exactly true. He had some addiction issues, him and my stepmother, and I had a little brother and 2 little sisters that were quite a bit younger. I'm 10 years older than one of my brothers, and then my other sister, I was 16 years older than her, 18 years older than my other sister, and then I have another brother that lives in Connecticut as well. And so I had to move back home. The home life was not good, and I'm like, I need to move home. And I didn't have a job. I was actually driving a limousine up in Reno and doing well. And I loved life. I was making good money. I thought I was just going to kind of stay up there.
Yeah.
So I called a friend and I said, hey, I need to get a job. He was a few years ahead of me. He was already in law school, but he had a girlfriend that lived down here in Vegas and she worked in restaurant supplies. and he made a call. She got me a job. I started working for Cintas, and that's how I originally got into sales. And then still was going to go to law school, and had taken the LSAT, done well, was applying to law schools, and then I had planned on working for about a year and then going back to law school.
Yep.
And then I was at my desk one day. We had shared desks that we did, and there was a phone call. They were actually trying to get another guy that I used to work with, Jason Adamson is his name. He was a dear friend. Anyways, they were trying to reach Jason. It was a recruiter, and I answered. And I said, Jason's not here, and take a message. She's like, well, tell me about you. What's your deal? And I had done well at Cintas. And so he was recruiting for Stryker. And I had never heard of med device. And so the recruiter convinced me, because at first I'm like, I'm going to go law school. It's not what I want to do. He's like, dude, trust me. Like, let me fly you down to Texas. Like, I'm going to fly you down there with the #1 rep and go ride along with him and this and that. And so I did. I flew down to Texas, and I did this ride along with this, total stud of a guy. And, it was the typical Stryker thing, right? He was an ex-professional athlete. And it opened up this whole world to me that I didn't even know existed. And I did that for 2 days, and I'm like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm getting this job.
Yep.
And I ended up doing well. I, took the Gallup and obviously did well on that, did well in the interview, and I got into Stryker, and that was over 20 years ago now.
Wow. First off, I draw a couple things that in your story. Number one, I can relate to you on the, hey, family's sick. Everyone thinks that I moved out to Arizona because the land of opportunity. I say that because I've had family members go through some stuff, and I remember my aunt from Ohio actually called me after one of the last incidents, and she actually was like, you can't stay here. You have to leave. Because I look back now, one of the most influential people in my life, loved me enough to be like, hey, if you stay here, you're stuck.
Yeah.
And so the reason I'm just saying that is even though it's those tough decisions, first off, I just love for you, you put family first, you're like, hey, let me come back. But then that you made the jump, but you still never stopped. It wasn't that you just came here and you're like, I'm just going to give up. You started looking.
Sure.
And then the fact that you take the call and somebody says, hey, I'll fly you down to Texas, and you say yes. I just want people to listen to this right now, because I get so many human beings that reach out to us and they always are like, well, I would, but, and there's always a but. But if you would just be open, you never know how much life could actually change. So
100% agree.
I just love that you were open enough to go on that trip, and then it's like, hey, 20 years later.
It was the best thing I ever did.
Yeah.
And I actually, it's funny, I have some transitional moments like that throughout my career where it totally took me on a different path, or, something at the time bad happened or catastrophic career wise. And then, oh my God, I look back and it ended up being a blessing in disguise, so now you learn obviously as you get older, and now I'm so open to talking to everybody. I make sure I give everybody time, and I give everybody the respect they deserve, and have conversations, because you never know what's going to come of them.
Yeah, that's so true. We were actually just having a talk on our flight out here. The same thing is just be open to everyone, and you never know, this world, if you learn anything, it's relationships and it's people, and it's you never know where it can lead to where it is. And like you said, I'm a big believer, and I tell people hey, you can't, one of the things I teach inside of our program all the time is you don't know what God's going to do in your life.
Correct.
And if you try to put the limit, the problem is it's your limit. And I just share that we actually just did this with one of our people. She kept saying 130, 140, 140, and just got hired at 180.
Got to
and I was
change that thinking.
Yeah, I was can you just open up? And then and now she's actually going for a role for 350. And it's I
think it's good to there's that old saying, how do you eat an elephant, right? It's one bite at a time. And I think that's good, because that's realistic. But you should never limit yourself, to your point, right? Because you never know, the sky's the limit, I think, truly, for everybody.
Yeah, I just want to share this because I think you have this in you, and I'm very sure that you do this for people. Is most people just don't know what's possible because of their own limitations, but they never get told what they could do. And I just say this because when I was the young kid who moved out to Arizona, the only thing that kept me going was way more successful people than myself telling me that I was going to be more successful than them.
Yeah.
And I just share that to anyone watching, listening, is hey, just be hungry. You know,
well, I think it's kind of human nature, right? If you haven't done something before, for some people, it's hard to envision them doing it, right? And the people that have done whatever the thing is, whether it's in business or sports or life or whatever, they have that that perspective now because they've already done it. And looking back, they're like, oh, I could totally do that again, right?
Yeah.
And I think everybody could do the thing. They
Yep.
just have to open their mind to it.
Yeah, and they have to be open. It was funny, we were just talking about like seeing all the people gambling here in Vegas, right? I just always talk to people, my buddies used to gamble all the time.
Yeah.
But I worked landscaping and I hated life and I hated picking up the sticks and doing all the stuff. And I could never understand the gambling and being like, hey, I couldn't understand letting money go away because I was working so hard for it.
Yeah.
But then now it's like you get to the point where it's like if you stay stuck, you're stuck. But if you just be open to opportunities everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, so I think you do a really good job of that because like even a random kid messaging you and you were willing to get on, I truly appreciate it. And I know people will be out there, but I just want to put out there for anyone listening, like just be open. You never know the conversations that can come. But let's go into you're at Stryker.
Yeah.
What was it like being an associate sales rep? I know it was 20 years ago, but like, what was that life like going from like, I don't even know what med device sales is to, hey, now I'm an associate sales rep inside of a massive organization?
Yeah, no, for sure. Actually, I don't even think it was an associate role. I think they just threw me into being a rep because I was the first person to sell surgical navigation for Stryker in the state of Nevada. It was a brand new product for them.
Yeah.
And so it was, looking back, I mean, it was pretty overwhelming. So again, this is over 20 years ago. And Stryker was extremely aggressive back then. I think they still are, right? But they were very known for, you know, you gotta grow by 20% or you're out,
Every
you know,
year,
that type of thing, right? And I had gotten hired and I knew nothing about med device, knew nothing about the OR. And they sent me, you know, back then there was no online training or anything. They sent me, I don't know, 6 or 8 big, huge 3-ring binders of all these training materials. And that was your OR protocol and your bloodborne pathogen and you know, the product details. So I'm like going through these and trying to figure out, and no direction was given. It's like, hey, you know, there was no customers. It's not like, you know, go talk to this doctor, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of like getting thrown to the wolves for sure when I look back on it. And, you know, I know that all med device companies now have changed and gone through it, and training is such an integral part.
Huge.
And so, yeah, for me, it was like drinking from a fire hose for sure. And I remember I went down, I had gotten a surgeon. He was the first surgeon that I got on board to use the product. He was down in Bullhead City, Arizona.
Okay.
And so I drove down there and doing my first cases. And again, there was like no official training class. Like everything was just these binders and stuff. And this is literally my first time in the OR, aside from when I had done the ride along. And I go in there and we had some disposables, you know?
Yep.
And so I'm talking to the scrub tech beforehand. I'm like, hey, you know, I got these disposables that you'll need for the case, you know, pins, this, that, and the other thing. He's like, okay, yeah, just go and drop them on the back table. And so I go in the OR and there's the back table, all blue, and it has all the surgical instruments on it. And I just took the packages and I'm like threw them on there. And I walked out. And then, you know, about an hour later, the case goes to start and gets scrubbed in. I help him tie he actually told me, he's like, hey, can you come tie my gown?
Yep.
First time I ever tied a gown, and I did it. So he opens the outer package, and then there's the inner package, and he goes, was there another package that these were in? And I'm like, yeah, no, the box. He's like, where? And I'm like, oh, they're all right there. And he's like, did you just open the box and put these on here? I'm like, yeah. He's like, you didn't open? And I'm like, no. And he's like, he starts screaming at first, and then takes the, you know, the blue, and so I royally messed up on my first case, and you know, he had to break scrub and redo. And that was my welcome to medical device. Yeah, exactly. So fair enough to say I had never made that mistake literally ever again in my life.
Yeah, no, well, first off, if you guys don't know what he's talking about, just so you guys know, there's a sterile field, right? And so you have packages, normally disposables come into like a package, and then there's another package, and then you have to open it and you can't touch it because of making it sanitary and everything. And so yes, but hilarious enough. That's I think we've all gone through, like, I'll never forget walking through, like, from where the bed was, and there I walked through, and a scrub tech's like, what are you doing? You're in between, and you have the sterile field. But so first off, I love that story for the fact of like no training, like you're looking at binders, and it's just like,
and listen, like it was 100% my fault. I'm sure somewhere in those 8 binders there was something that said what to do, and and it was definitely on me. Probably wasn't studious enough. But it's looking back now, it was probably too much too soon. Right? I had to learn anatomy. That product covered spine, orthopedics, trauma, ENT, and so it was probably just it was a lot to learn. I didn't know anything about the med device industry. There was a capital component, right? You had to sell a $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 system. That is a completely different style of sale versus a clinical sale to the physician to get them to utilize the product. And there's disposables, and you have to talk to supply chain about the disposables, and it was a lot. And I probably, I obviously I did really well in the interview process and I got the job. But looking back on it, Jimbo Gilbert was the guy that hired me, and I'm forever grateful to Jimbo for giving me a chance. But man, he probably hired the wrong person. He probably should have hired somebody who was 10 years in and knew the difference between all those different types of sales cycles and the different techniques that you probably have, and quite frankly the skill set you want the candidate to have in order to be successful at that. And I didn't have the skill set. However, I had the ambition and the drive, and had a little chip on my shoulder, like I'm going to do this, right? And so
I just want to touch on that. That is why Jimbo probably hired you, right?
Oh, for sure.
And the reason I say that for everyone listening, right, is there's always more qualified people, right? But it's like, what I want to say is the very first case you ever were a part of, yelled at, right?
100%. Screwed up the whole room.
And then you still bounced back, right? You still came to work the next day, right? I just want to share that to people, because most people think it's like, oh, if I get yelled at once, like maybe this isn't for me, I just quit. But it's like every single person that's successful has had their failures. We just probably don't publicly go and tell everyone like, oh yeah, I failed at all this. It's, you still show up. It's the ambition and what the hunger for you to go. And I just put that out there.
I had talked to, after that happened, I had talked to Jimbo, and he's like, well, he was kind of this Southern dude. He was from Louisiana, I think. I can't do his accent justice. The guy he was amazing. He was like a walking caricature. And he's like, well, he's like, you messed up royally, for the first time. You'll never make that mistake again. And he told me something. I never forget it. And I've repeated it to probably every person I've ever hired in the industry since then, which is your main goal is to make sure that when anything goes wrong in that case, it's never your fault. And that simple statement said a lot to me. It's like, that's everything all in one. Like, know your product, know your anatomy, know your physician, know your patient, know your plan, know your hospital, know your process, like know everything, be dialed in. And like, no matter what happens in that OR, because things are going to go wrong. Just make sure it's none of your stuff that goes wrong, right? Something goes wrong, with the surgery, something goes wrong with staff, something goes wrong with a piece of equipment. Just make sure it ain't your stuff.
It's such good advice. Like, it's such a simple term.
It's so simple.
But but what you said though is like, I think people don't actually understand what it means. So the fact that you laid it out, right? Like understanding like, you can show up to 2 different hospitals, 2 different layouts, 2 different staff, 2 different everything, how they run stuff.
Process, different protocol.
Exactly. So I think that's just, becoming, like I always say, become an expert in your division, becoming an expert in your job. It's, do you know your territory? Do you know, the scrub techs? Do you know the nurses? Do you know that aspect? So I put that out there because so many people want success. But I think, again, in a world of, oh yeah, well, I just did this, or somebody said to do this, or even in training's not telling you to like, hey, let's talk about the different nurses and like, let's talk about the different scrub techs and let's talk about different personalities.
It's heavy product and anatomy and process usually,
Exactly.
It doesn't get down to the nitty gritty stuff. And just to going back to Jimbo, I think like I did enough. Obviously, I did enough to get the interview. And I think that should be everybody's goal, right? Whatever they need to do to like get themselves in the interview. That part of that is your resume. Part of that is, speaking to the recruiters and selling yourself. But the goal is to get the interview. And once you get the interview, then it's a whole new game, right? Like everybody's on a level playing field, in my opinion, once they get to the interview, right? And so, I got to that interview. And Jimbo and I hit it off. I think if I remember correctly, his father was also a musician, probably like a banjo player, knowing Jimbo, I don't know, something like that. And him and I hit it off, and we were talking about my father being a musician and this, that, and the other thing. And I'll never forget, he asked me, he even said, he's like, you're the least qualified candidate. You have 0 experience. Like, why should I give you this job?
Come on.
And I remember to this day, I said to him, I'm like, about 6 weeks ago, I didn't even know this industry existed. Now that I know it exists, I promise you I'm going to get in. And if you don't hire me, that's totally fine. But I promise you, I'll just get a job at one of your competitors and I'm going to take it to you guys. So like, I'm going to get mine either way. So you may as well hire me because I'm going to be successful. And he like loved that, and that was like, probably a little bit too much confidence at the time for sure. But I had that, I don't know, that confidence, that bravado. Now that I'm older, I looking back, it was probably too much arrogance, right? And arrogance, I think, turns into confidence. Like once you get to that point. But yeah, and I think it was that personal connection.
Yep.
That I had with him, that I think he, looking back on it, probably did what I've done so many times, is like, I like this person and I'm going to give them their chance, you know? And then the other thing that had come to during that interview process, it was a very long interview process, as I'm sure you're familiar with Stryker and all that. And, you know, throughout that process, going through with so many different levels and so many different people that were interviewing me, that lack of experience and all that kind of kept coming up. And, you know, what I had said to them is, I said, well, if you only hire people with experience, eventually you're going to run out of people to hire. And, you know, I can't remember who it was at the time I was talking to, and it was a panel interview, I think. And they're like, what do you mean by that? And I'm like, well, at some point, like, somebody gave you a chance. Like, if you only hire people with experience, eventually everybody's going to like retire, or they're going to pass away. Everybody with experience is going to be gone. Like, so at some point you have to hire, you got to give somebody a chance. And like, somebody gave you a chance, and look at you. Now you're a sales director, or you're a VP, or you're a regional manager, or whatever. Like, I just need my chance. And so they did, and I'm grateful that they did. And I have tried to do that as well. You know, when the setting is appropriate for whatever company or whatever position I'm hiring for, I pride myself on trying to give people their shot.
I love that. Well, I want to say this. I think also when you say that, because there's so many things I want to touch on, because I know it's going to be encouraging to everyone, but like, first off, I think it also comes from Jimbo probably being a great leader, right? Because I think when you said, hey, you won't make that mistake again, that's someone who's seasoned and understand, and they're like, hey, I know they're going to make mistakes, right? Compared to the new person's yelling at them. You know what I mean? Like, there's just a different tone to it. That's number one. But number two, I love the thing that you just said. I did the exact same thing. I teach that to people that we're talking to. It's like, hey, if you're not going to take on a shot on me, I totally understand, but someone will, and whoever does, I promise you, they're going to be extremely happy, right?
I'm going to perform.
Just like you said, I've been learning now. I'm in my 30s instead of the 20s. Everyone watches the young Jacob, and it's like, I didn't give myself an option of not being successful, right? And sometimes you have to have that self-belief and going into
100%.
But there's also, like you said, you're going to have the confidence, and you're going to get it. Sometimes it can come off to certain people arrogant, but you have to go and have that belief in yourself, because no one else is going to. And then when you get your shot, hey, it's not going to be perfect, but I'm not going to give up.
You got your shot.
And I'm going to keep going. And the last thing I want to touch on is, like, for everyone here, is what you said. Hey, when people say you don't have a clinical experience or you don't have sales experience, we always go back to
not yet.
Right. And I can learn that. And we teach we're always about, you guys should be looking at how to do the job, to get the job, learn what the job duties are, so you can show that through the process. But with that aspect of it is, neither did you at one point. Right. And I think what you just said there it's such a good point.
Nobody comes into this world with med device experience.
Exactly. Nobody comes out of the world or comes into this world being like, I'm going to be a med device sales rep. Right. And that's why I was the same way. I didn't know about it. But then most of us are pretty type A human beings, and we like go it, and then we're like, I'm going to obsess about this. And then you find out, oh, I can not only help people, I also feel fulfilled. I feel like this is great. And also, oh, this can change my life in a lot of different ways. And so I think that's a couple of things, because a lot of times we have people go so above and beyond. It was the same thing for me. I went through 14 different interview processes before I became a full-line rep at Medtronic. But I always tell people I learned something on every single one.
Oh, absolutely.
And then what happens?
You get better at interviewing.
Exactly.
It's a skill just like anything else.
It's a game, And then at the end of it, though, they're like, you did all this? And I was like, wait till you pay me. Right. Like, you go through that process. They're like, wait, you did this all just for the interview? And I was like, I actually called up a place with a bunch of GYNs at the time, because I was going to pay $500 when I didn't even make $40K a year, but I was going to pay $500 so I could find OBGYNs' thoughts on this product. And it was like things I always was thinking of, how to be outside the box. And so I put that out there, because I think that you're wired that way too. Is like, how can I be resourceful? How can I show, even though I know I'm going to get objections, which that is just sales. We know we're going to get it. How are we going to overcome it? And there has to be that self-belief in there. But also, I think something that you're really great at, and just it comes off when we talk, is like, you're very coachable. You're very understanding. You're like, hey, I don't know everything. And even though we're very confident, I think that's the thing that I've learned with a lot of the VPs, the C-suite, the people that I've seen be extremely successful. They're very talented and they're very smart, but they also never try to claim to be the smartest in the whole space.
Right. Well, that goes back to, again, that younger arrogance becoming confidence. When you're truly confident, you're confident in what you don't know, and that's okay.
Yep.
And there's no insecurities around what you don't know. It's like, oh, here's my blind spot, here's my gap. Let me go find Jacob, or let me go find John, or whoever can like fill that gap for me.
Yep.
And it's it's not a weakness at all, but it takes a mature person to kind of understand that.
Go through that 100%. So now, so you worked at a big W2 Stryker.
Correct.
And you did that world, and then you made a transition into the distributor world.
Correct. Yeah.
And so I want to talk about that because we have a lot of people who don't even know what a distributorship is.
Yeah, sure.
Can you just kind of explain what a distributorship is?
Sure. So in med device, this is actually across all other markets and types of, whatever it is, mugs or microphones or whatever. There's probably W2 reps that work for large manufacturers, and then there's independent distributors.
Yep.
And so in the medical device world, distributors, there's a couple of different kinds, but just to simplify it all, they don't work directly for a company, so their expenses are their own, right? And typically they'll have a contract with a smaller manufacturer, and they'll sell whatever their product is, and they'll make a commission on it. And typically that commission is going to be higher than what you would make if you work directly for a manufacturer, right? Because working for a manufacturer, you might get a salary, plus they pay for your car, they pay for benefits, 401k. You don't have any of that. So you're truly independent, but maybe you make 40 or 50 or 60% commission, whatever it is, selling the thing. And then typically those companies, they have contracts with the hospitals. You go out and generate the business, they bill the hospital pays them, you get paid your commission. And so that's, I guess, at a high level what a distributor is.
And that's really good. And the reason I just share that is because most people, they don't know the difference between W2 and 1099. And we always talk about it like, we're not CPAs. Check with your CPAs for legal advice. But it's, again, going back to like what you said, if you work for, let's just say, a Medtronic's going to pay you, and you're a W2 for Medtronic, right? Yeah. But then, for example, if you can go sell products as a distributor, I always tell people it's almost like you can become like a Walmart or an Amazon Prime for certain products. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and it's interestingly enough, like when I had started, 20 plus years ago, actually Stryker did have some divisions that were 1099. Even then, like I think I don't know. I was very low, obviously, the lowest rung on the totem pole back then. But looking back on it, what I assume they did was, if it was like a newer division, maybe they probably like would start out and offer 1099 reps. But back in the day, they would advertise on medreps.com. That was before LinkedIn and all. That's where everybody went. They would advertise Stryker 1099, ENT or whatever the division was. And so even the large companies, to my knowledge, I mean, they might still do it to this day. I don't know. So
there are a couple companies that like.
So it's not unheard of, right?
Yeah. But most of them just don't know. Like, for example, this is what I love is like if you're more entrepreneurial, that's usually going to be more of the distributor model. A lot of times.
I mean, in general, the distributors that I have seen that are the most successful are one of two things. Either one, they have multiple product lines, right? And maybe within that same space. So if they're in neuro or they're in orthopedics, maybe they sell in ortho and neuro because there's some crossover there with neuro and ortho spine or something like that. Or they have the rights to some product that is just, a killer product, and they're able to just grow that exponentially and then just scale from there, right? And so they might start out with a single person, and then they hire an associate, and then that business grows and they hire reps, and there's some major distributors out there that are doing hundreds of millions of dollars as a distributor. I mean, there's some big ones.
So how did you go from I'm at Stryker to let me go take a shot on at a distributor?
So my buddy Ben will love this because he steals this phrase from me all the time. But I got quit from Stryker is how I like to say it. And so Stryker was extremely competitive. I did decent my first year. Second year, the main revenue came from capital. And, I had some deals in the works, but man, they just weren't closing in time. And my manager, I had switched managers at the time. There was a different manager and my sales just weren't coming through. And he was like, hey, listen, it looks like you're not going to hit your number. Why don't, I don't think this is right for you. Why don't you kind of, look for something else? So that was obviously a gut punch. I'm like, man, I finally I got into med device, and going through that long interview with Stryker, 6 weeks, and doing the Gallup and all these interviews, I was so high, and go to these meetings, and I was like, man, this is awesome. And now I'm getting quit, right? Dang it. And so during that 18 months that I was with Stryker, I had really built a brand for myself in that short amount of time within the ORs of, I was Johnny on the spot. I had a great attitude. I was there at the hospital at 5 a.m. waiting for the doctor in the physician parking lot, and hey doc, just to let you know I have my XYZ up sterile just in case you need it today. And I would be in that hospital for 8-10 hours, no cases, right? So I had built that kind of reputation.
Yep.
And there was another distributor here in town who had a partner, and his partner was in the OR a lot, and he saw me and he's like, man, this kid, like, he's tenacious.
Yeah.
He's got a great attitude. I had great relationships with the hospital. It didn't translate into business, but like I was doing all the right things, right? Yeah. And so he had approached me, and he's like, hey, I heard you're leaving Stryker. I said, yeah. I said, what are you going to do? I said, man, I don't know. He's like, why don't you come work for us? And they had spine implants and orthopedic implants.
Yep.
And I was like, man, that sounds great. And then that kind of put the idea in my head. I'm like, well, why can't I just do that myself as well? And so I had made a really, really good professional relationship, made contact with a young spine surgeon that was just starting out here in Vegas at the time. And him and I really hit it off. He's still a dear friend to this day. And I approached him. I said, hey, I think I'm going to go work for this distributor. And then I also think I could get some products of my own. Like, I've been talking to this company, and I just Googled at home and did some research and found some biologics and a couple of different things. I said, would you use these products? He's like, yeah, for sure. And so I left Stryker and I started with that distributor and selling their products. But then at the same time, I started selling my own products.
Yep. Come on.
And that gave me a few years where I was able to learn. I learned about being a distributor because I had no idea. And I just figured, I said, well, these guys are the gentleman that was the primary owner of that distributorship. He was very successful.
Yeah.
And I looked at him and I looked at all he had, and man, this guy was just so smart. He had been doing it for 20 years already. Yeah. And so I just went in there and I wanted to learn everything. Yeah. And I sat next to him. I said, teach me about this, teach me about that. Yeah. And so I learned very quickly and made some tweaks into my business, and then was able to grow my distributorship. And then I ended up leaving that distributorship that I was working for.
Yeah. One thing you just said that I want to really hammer home is we live in a culture where, even with me, like when we were teaching our program, like, hey, our average comes in at 113K. Yeah. I just share that for the fact that everyone comes in and they talk about earning money right away.
Yeah.
And I always tell people, that was the last thing I was ever worried about when I was trying to break in. I just wanted an opportunity to come and learn, because you bet on yourself, you trust all the stuff. But I just say that because, I've had people tell me this, like, just understand when you're first coming in the industry, it's about the earning years, it's about the learning years, not the earning years, right? And what you just said is exactly what I try to do. It's like, I'm going to come in, I want to learn everything. I want to learn about all the other divisions so I can actually start to become an expert. And that's why, for me, I just always want to say this is, everyone talks about time in the industry, and I do believe that's important because you just get more data points.
Yeah.
But I do believe if you just are tenacious, you're spending 8 to 10 hours in there, you're learning, you can sum up years of experiences into months and being able to
I think so. I agree with that. Yeah. I mean, and on the flip side, you could spend 20 years in the industry and not learn anything. You do your one thing and you do it really well. And there's nothing wrong with that either, right? Everybody gets into the industry for different reasons.
Yep.
And obviously money is a factor.
Yep.
And everybody treats money differently.
Yep.
I've always, I came from very poor backgrounds.
Yes.
And so I've always lived so far below my means. I've always been a crazy saver from the time, I worked ever since I was, 13 years old, saving money. And I've always, I don't do flashy cars. That's just not my style.
Yeah.
And, so it was never that was never the primary goal. It was I'm going to make this much this year. And it was more about doing business. That was the interesting thing to me.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, my dad would ask me all the time, Angie, he called me Angie. My dad's name was Angelo as well.
Okay.
So, Angie, what do you want to do when you get older? And I'm like, I don't know. I was like, I just know I want to wear suits, which is funny because I'm not wearing a suit now. And he was like, what do you mean? And I'm like, I want to be a businessman, you know? And so I'd go out with my dad and, we'd be at the gas station or whatever, and a businessman would pull up and he had a suit on with a tie. I just thought that was so cool. Right.
Yep.
And so that's kind of how I've always approached this industry. Once I got into this industry, is I just want to do the business. I want to do the thing.
Yep.
And the money is a byproduct of it, right? If you do the right things that you're supposed to do, and you're taking care of your customers, you're taking care of your patients, you're putting them before you, then the natural byproduct of that is going to be money, and it can be a lot of it, right? And so
good.
But it's, Yeah, I mean, everybody's different, and for some people that maybe that is the primary factor, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yep.
But I do think you need to at least not make that your primary focus. Otherwise, you're probably not going to do the best you can do.
I love that you just hit that, because what I see all the time is people tell me how much money they want to make.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but do you know how much value you have to provide? And like you said, it's all just a byproduct. Like I always tell people, I never focused on the money. I just focused on how can I provide value to everyone? Can I go get the saline bags for the nurses to make their life easier?
It's funny too. Like I've had a lot of people over the years, same thing. They're like, well, I want to make it to this next level. I want to make whatever the next level for them is, $350 a year. I'm like, okay, well, this is what it takes to make that. And let's say they're making 200, 220 right now. Man, there's tons of people that are like, nah, I don't want to work that hard.
Exactly.
Like it's not worth it. I'm cool with where I'm at.
Yes.
You know? And that's okay too, right?
100%. And I think that's the thing, is just being self-aware, right? Like they always talk about, you can either be like really, like they talk about for success, you can either be really ambitious and then go, but you're going to have like you're going to lose a lot of sacrifices, or you can not do all the ambitious stuff, but just don't be mad that you don't have all the other things, right? And I just say that because I really appreciate you talking about this. I think one of the things that I find super interesting in this industry is we all know medical device sales does well. Like you can do well in medical, you can make a lot of money. And what's interesting is all I'm ever trying to show is like what's possible for people. Hey, like there is a job posting, and when recruiters post it, it's no problem, right?
Yeah.
But for some reason, when it's like, hey, yeah, you can get a job for $150,000, or you could make $200,000 in this industry. There's a lot of reps I see that get extremely angry at that. And they're like, well, you can't do that. Or and I always just share this, I've never seen somebody who's doing it ever be mad about someone who does that. Or if they have their own business, like if I say, hey, this company, like we just helped a company get hired, they're starting reps out at $150K, but they're trying to introduce a product. It's a way different look, right?
Right.
And then you'll have people from certain divisions that are only paying their employees 65, 75, 85,000, and then they're being like getting very defensive about it. And so I understand both parties.
Yeah.
But I just want to say that, like, that's why I appreciate you bringing this up, because I want people to know, like, yeah, if you do a good job, you could get to 2, 3,
absolutely.
4. Like there's a path. But again, what are you willing to sacrifice? And what are you willing to do and learn, and all of the things? And a lot of people aren't willing, and that's okay. But I just want to put it out there for people.
Yeah, no, I think counting other people's money is never a productive thing, right? So I think it goes back to kind of what you said. There's a lot of type A people in this industry, and that's, people are naturally competitive. And so maybe when they see that, they're like jealousy or, whatever it might be, right? I think the other thing that I've seen too is this is such a, like, I think it's a very glamorous life, right? Like you're flying around. If you have a large territory, you're flying around on the company's dime. You're going to really nice dinners.
Staying at nice hotels.
You're staying at nice hotels. You're getting status with Marriott. You're being treated well every time you walk through the doors. You're dealing with physicians that make, they're the top half of the 1%, right?
Yes.
And you're dealing with hospital administrators that do well. I mean, everybody around you does well if you compare it to everything else. If you compare it to your run of the mill, plumber or electrician or something, man, we are so fortunate. Even like the entry level jobs that you're talking about, on the grand scheme of things. And I think sometimes people, they probably get a skewed perception,
100%,
where they're not super grateful anymore for the fact that they're making 150 or 160 because they know of this one rep that made $1 million last year. They know this rep that's making 600. And I think it's worthwhile if you take a step back and you just appreciate like what you have. And then you also appreciate maybe what that rep did to get to that point. Maybe they've been doing this for 12, 15 years. You've only been doing it for 2 or 3. Like you'll get there as well.
Come on.
But it's about, like you said, the sacrifice, but also it's about the knowledge you gain and the value you're going to bring. Like, I'm sorry, this is a capitalist country. Like, all these companies are capitalist, systems. I promise you that person that's making whatever the dollar amount is, they're bringing tremendous value in exchange for that. And that's all you have to figure out is how you can contribute and bring that value, and then that money will come as well.
You're so right. And that's one thing I will say is, like, there's so many people who come to me and they're like 6 months, they're like, I want to make this. And I'm like, it took that person 12 years.
Right.
That, just so you know, I had to learn that when I first got into fitness and personal training. I told my mentor, I was like, I want to make $100,000. I'm a young 23-year-old.
Yeah.
And he looked at me and he's like, I sacrificed 14 years to be where I'm at today. So like, how about you shut your mouth and get back to like cleaning the gym? And it was such a good learning lesson for me. And I share that because it's going back to what you just said, but I do want to say this is you said something in that I want everyone to hear is live beneath your means, right? When you live
100%,
when you live beneath your means, it was the same thing. So what people don't understand is I was personal training, working medical device sales. I had 3 roommates. So I house hacked a rental that I actually made money some months.
After helping thousands of people break into medical device sales, we've received a lot of messages of asking for more personalized coaching and mentorship. Our average member breaks in at around 9.5 weeks at over $113,000. And if you're really interested and really motivated to break into medical device sales, you can click the link below or check out our website at newtomedicaldevicesales.com. See all the testimonial videos of people breaking in with Medtronic at over $170,000, at Abbott $175,000 as a full line rep. So if you're really excited and also motivated and wanting personalized coaching and mentorship, then go and click the link below, schedule a call, and we'll get you where you want to go. Enjoy the rest of the episode.
And like we were having very good months, and I only lived off my personal training money.
Yeah.
And I just shared that because what I've noticed, and it's not always, but what I've noticed from the jaded reps that have 3, 5, 8, 9+ years, and they get mad, is they don't love it anymore.
Yeah.
They created a lifestyle they have to keep up.
That's super dangerous.
And they have to make the sales.
Yeah.
And then they get frustrated and then they take on the stress, right? Compared to what I've noticed with a lot of very successful individuals, they do it because they love it.
Yeah.
They've lived underneath their means, they've saved or they've had it. So they're like, hey, I'm good. And now you're not
to
pressuring.
me, honestly, so that's something I'm very passionate about. I've always been very financially minded, very fiscally responsible.
Yep.
And I'm big on investments. I'm big on living below your means. I'm big on, making your money work for you. And anybody that comes to me and asks me for advice, either on medical or outside, just like, hey, how do I get into rental houses? How do I do this? I'm very passionate about this because I truly believe if you are in a good place financially, you're going to make much better decisions for your patients and for your customers. You're going to make long-term decisions.
Come on.
Versus like, oh my God, I got to pay for my BMW. I got to pay for the house I can't afford. I have to get this sale this month. I have to hit my quota this quarter. And I've seen reps do some things that give us sometimes a bad reputation, right?
Yes.
Like that, that's out there.
100%.
And, it's my philosophical belief. I've seen a lot of people that are in management positions and higher. They're like, oh, I love it when my reps go out and buy a new car because now they have to sell more.
They have to hustle.
Correct. I just don't agree with that.
Yeah.
Everybody that's ever reported to me, they're dear friends of mine. I still talk to almost literally every person that's ever reported to me ever.
Yep.
And that's probably the bulk of our conversations is, hey, Angelo, I got this big bonus check coming. I was thinking about doing X, Y, and Z. What do you think? And I'm like, absolutely. Like the best position you can be in is getting a big commission check that you don't need.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yep.
And, I always want to make decisions for my patients, for my physician customers, for my hospitals that are truly best for them, not for me and my quotas, best for them. And if I do that, they're going to be a customer not only next month or next quarter, they're going to be a customer next decade.
That's
right?
what people miss.
And I want to be able to, I'm 46 years old now. I'm going to be doing this for at least probably 15 more years.
Yep.
I want everyone that's a customer right now to can't wait to do business with me 15 years from now. And it's because I can make those good decisions for them, not like what's best for me and my paycheck.
100%. And because what you just said is like, next year there'll still be a customer. I watch people who I always say, what are you doing today that will help you 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 2 years down the line from now? And what you just said is what most people do is they do the short term. Oh, I have to get it. And again, we're all selfish human beings. That's okay, but we all think about ourselves.
Well, the system is set up for short term because it's like monthly commissions, quarterly bonuses, annual bonuses, right? I mean, that's just how it is.
Yep. But if you look at like, hey, can I have long-term success here? You look at it different. You act different in the OR. Right.
100%.
So it's like, and I always tell people, it's like, why my territory? Because I took the lowest performing to top 10 my first year at Medtronic. Yeah. I kept saying, I'm not going anywhere. So I better do something that's going to help me next year.
It's funny. I had, we'll probably talk about this eventually, but when I had gotten into urology
Yeah.
and I was selling men's health products, we had this program after Boston Scientific had purchased American Medical Systems. Boston came up with this amazing program where we would meet with patients in clinic, and they had to agree to it and they signed off on it, and we would educate patients. And I would see all these patients all the time who wanted a penile implant.
Yep.
And once you get a penile implant, like there's no going back.
Yes.
You have to have a penile implant forever, right?
Yep.
And I would talk to these patients and I'm like, well, have you tried medication? Man, I tried it for a couple of weeks, gave me a headache. I'm like, well, which one did you try? Did you try these other ones? Did you try injection therapy? Did you try this? Did you try losing some weight? And I would like talk more of these guys out of implants than anything else. And everything was tracked. And, my manager was like, what's going on? You have a really bad ratio, with these patients. I'm like, yeah, man, like they're not ready for an implant.
Yeah.
And I did that because that was the right thing for the patient.
Yep.
I'm not worried about my commission check.
Yep.
I'm fine. And that gave me so much credibility when I would walk out of that room and the doctor would go, oh, what did they say? And I'm like, no, man, give him a prescription for injection therapy. I convinced him to try that. He's not ready yet, And my doctors loved it.
Yeah.
They absolutely loved it. They're like, because they saw that I cared truly about just recommending the best thing for the patient.
Yeah.
Versus my commission check.
Yeah.
And
I think that goes so far because, again, people just want to be people, right? And they don't want to, there's so many sales reps. I always say this real quick is why the used car sales rep gets a bad rap, right? Because they're trying to sell you something you don't need.
Correct.
Right? Oh, well, you sure? And I always say this. That's why you need to focus on, does this actually solve what they need? And is it the right time? Because the worst thing that could happen is that patient gets it and then they realize maybe they lost the weight or they had something and then they regret all that aspect. So I love that aspect of it. And just so we can clear it, we could keep going down them. I love the financial. The one last thing I do want to just say is I tell all of our people to save up. And again, if you're watching this, I say this with the most love. I'm not saying this to make people feel bad, but once you're in the industry and if you live below your means, you can do it. I always say save up around $50,000 plus. Yeah. Why I say that is because there's a power of being able to look at that and again, put it in a high yield savings account, but look at it. Once you get 50 or 100 in there, you're like, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. It's the security. And that's what people miss is money is just freedom. Money is security, right?
Yeah.
And then you don't have to do things you don't want to. And then you can actually go and sell because you love to.
Right.
Compared to what I watch a lot of reps do is like this. We talk to these people every single day. I want to do medical device sales because it sounds good. I want to do this because girls will look at me. I want to do this because I want to tell people that I'm in it.
Yeah.
Right? Compared to what we're always focused on is, are you thinking about your mom, your dad, your sister, your brother, your cousins being on that table and being able to help them, right? Because if you do that, and like we always say, if you're just good, it doesn't matter what you do, but if you're good at what you do and focus on doing that really well, money will come no matter where you're at.
Agreed. Yeah, I think almost anybody can come into the industry and do well for a quarter or even a year, right? But to be able to do that for 5, then 10, then 15, then 20 on a consistent basis, not every year is going to be the best year ever, but to be consistent over the long term, that should be the goal.
Yeah, I love that. Now, let's do a transition because I was really excited about this piece of you worked at Stryker and you were in the ortho world and did navigation as well.
Yep.
But then you went into the distributorship world where it was ortho. Almost every single human being that talks to me is, oh, I want to do medical device sales. I'm like, oh, what is that? And they're like, orthopedics, and it has to be at Stryker, right? And they don't know that there's a million other companies, a million other divisions. I wanted to talk to you about this is because I'm actually getting a lot of orthopedic reps that are reaching out to me. And we were kind of talking off air, right, where it's these people are been in the industry for 3, 5, 8, 10 years. But then when I'm making a post that hey, there's an opportunity with entry level or hey, 2 years experience, you can make 150. I actually just had a rep. They were like, hey, I saw the OTE is 180. Is that even real? Is that possible? Right? And I'm like, of course, there's divisions that pay that. But I just wanted to kind of talk about that because again, what we're seeing is the world of orthopedics has changed a lot over the last 10 to 20 years. And I still say it's a great, you can still go in, you can still financially do well, you're going to make a big impact. Yeah. But can we kind of just talk about what you've seen over the last, especially recently with the changes of why reps might be looking at other divisions? Because you left and now you went into, we'll talk about men's health. Yeah. Can we just kind of talk about the current situation of where it's at and then go into what made you make that change from ortho to men's health?
Yeah. So all just my opinion, obviously.
Yeah.
I think whenever you have a lot of options as far as products go on the market, then the market tends to push that device or that specialty to more of like a commodity versus, a novelty or a specialty type sale.
Yep.
And so in my opinion, when it comes to orthopedics, largely those are simple devices. They're made out of titanium, they're made out of stainless steel, they're made out of, PEEK plastic.
Yep.
So there's a lot of manufacturers out there. They're relatively easy to manufacture from a technology standpoint. Right now, there's different takes on it. Stryker might have the advantage over here, and
Yes.
Pew might have the advantage over here, but largely those things are pretty easy to manufacture. So because of that, I think over the last 20 years, there's been this proliferation of a lot of these small companies making knees and hips and shoulders and spine implants. And you can do the research. There's probably 30, 40, 50 different options out there that are FDA approved in the United States where you can get knees and hips and shoulders. So just like anything else, when that space becomes more crowded, in my opinion, it's probably a harder sale because you have more competitors, right? You're just competing with more people. Margins tend to go down because the hospitals now have a ton of options. And that's what I saw in this Vegas market, right? So when I first started, I wasn't selling knees or hips for Stryker. I was in the navigation division. But when I went over to the distributorship, I had my own knees and hips, and so did the distributor that I was working for. Man, I think we were getting like 16,000 for a hip back then, and we were getting close to that for a knee. And last time I checked, probably around last year, I think the hospitals here in Vegas are paying around 3,000 for a knee and a hip. When the hospitals have more options and they can go to, they can they'll put on a request for proposal and they can pit all these companies against each other, and then they do it systematically. And so that's what they did with the spine implants as well. Every 2 years or so, there's two main hospital systems here in Vegas. Every other year, essentially, they would put out an RFP and they would say, here's your max price.
Yep.
If you can be below this price, you can play. If you're above the price, you can't have a contract. And that's how they drove the prices down. And so your margins shrink. And, I'm not the best at math, but you have to sell a lot more of something that costs $3,000 versus $16,000.
Yep.
The commissions have stayed largely the same, right? Whatever percentage these companies are going to pay, they're going to pay. But now you have to sell exponentially more to make the same dollar amount. And it just becomes an impossible task because there's only so many physicians. There's only so many patients. There's only so much block time. There's only so much business you're going to get. And there's only so many cases you can do in a week or a month or a quarter or whatever it is. And so I think largely what has probably happened, and again, I've been out of the orthopedic space for quite some time now, but from outside looking in, it seems like those compensation levels, those bands have gone down precipitously, right? And so for me, when I had the opportunity to go into urology, I had a friend who had another friend that was working at this amazing company. They're no longer around. They're called American Medical Systems. They had been in business for about 40 years.
Okay.
They were one of two companies in the whole world at the time that manufactured penile implants. And they were the only company in the world that manufactured what's called an artificial urinary sphincter. So that's the gold standard way to treat male incontinence. Okay. When a male has incontinence, there's a little cuff that they can put around this, the urethra that mimics the sphincteric function. And again, not the smartest guy, but I was doing spine in my orthopedic or my distributorship. And I'm like, I had just here in Vegas, I probably had 25 competitors. Now I had a chance to go and work for this company that one of their products had only one competitor and the other product had 0 competitors. I'm like, I'm going to try that.
Yeah.
And it ended up being the best decision of my life, like getting into urology. I fell in love with that space and I've been in it ever since.
Yep.
And I'll probably be in it until I retire.
Yep.
It's a very rewarding area to be in. The surgeons are amazing to work with. The cases are fun. Now, don't get me wrong. Knees and hips are fun.
Yep.
Spine can be fun as well. Those doctors are really cool. That's
Those
are your equivalent to like the jocks, right?
Yes,
in high school or college or whatever. They're really great, guys and girls to work with. But what I've also noticed is it seems like when there's fewer of a thing available, the companies have a little bit more power, I guess, in being able to protect price. Because it's scarce, if there's only 1 or 2 companies that make those things, then the power dynamics shift a little bit. And typically what you'll see is over time, the prices for those products go up. And what a lot of people don't understand is when CPT codes are evaluated on an annual basis, one of the data points that CMS looks at is invoices in the market. So if a hospital or a surgery center or a doctor or clinic are paying less for something, and they see that those margins are going down in the market, then CMS is like, well, we don't have to reimburse as much for this. So then it's a double-edged sword, because your margins go down, but then the hospital is making less now for those CPT codes. So then they have less money to pay for the product. So now they even want lower prices, right? Whereas, things should go up over time because of inflation. Everything gets more expensive, whether it's raw materials, whether it's the people that you hire, the skilled labor. When you're in a product space where there's few products, then you can do a little bit more on the business side to protect that reimbursement for the facility, protect that reimbursement for your device, and then protect that price. And then things can scale accordingly as they should in the market.
Yes. And I love it. You broke that down so simply for everyone to understand the profits, but I want to touch on this. You went into men's health real quick. And the reason I want to touch on this is so many people tell me, oh, Jacob, I have to wonder if I'm passionate about it. I have to wonder if this is what I want to do. And what I normally will say is like, hey, if you can find a product that you can align with and you know that it's helping people, usually you can become passionate about it from my experience, right? Yeah. Can you just have a conversation, like we were talking off air, but like selling spine or selling knees and hips is way different than penile implants, right? Yeah. Can you just kind of go into a little detail of like how you made that? Like you made the transition because you saw the opportunity with that space, but maybe that wasn't where you saw your life 5 years before that, right? Yeah. You're just going to talk about like, hey, what made you make that jump, and then like what it was like really getting started into a whole new division inside field of the space.
Yeah. I think thinking back, it was the right opportunity at the right time, right? So I had my distributorship. I had a couple of reps that were working for me. I had brought on my really good buddy from high school. He was a partner. That business was doing well. And I had the opportunity to go back into the corporate world. And at the time, it was like really nice, right? Like I had spent these years with no salary and no benefits and no 401k. And I had no retirement savings at the time, right? And I had this opportunity to go into this corporation where they were going to pay me a salary, and they're going to pay for my car, and they were going to pay for my gas and give me a 401k and all this stuff. But it was really the guy that I was interviewing with. His name is Ben. He's now one of my best friends in the whole world. He is an amazing human being. He's absolutely hilarious. I literally talked to him on the way over here today. Him and I talk constantly. He has all the tools, right? He's got an amazing personality. He is super smart. He should have been a stand-up comedian. He's so freaking funny. He has the best work ethic out of anybody I've ever met. He has a really, really good mind for business. He is constantly selling. That's maybe the one negative, is Ben is always trying to sell me on something. I'm like, are you just being for real right now? Yeah. You're trying to convince me of something. I interviewed with him and I'm like, I love this guy. Like, I want to go work. Him and I are pretty much the same age. He's a couple of years older than me. He looks about 20 years older than me, but that's besides the point. That was it. I made such a connection with him. I'm like, this kid is awesome. I want to go work for him. I think this is going to be super fun. So it was the opportunity. It was the time. It was the ability for me to go, and there was no non-compete issues. And it was that personal connection. The products were cool, don't get me wrong. And I thought it was kind of cool, but I had no idea. Once I got into it and I started doing it and I started seeing how happy the patients were after getting their life back. They can now go golf again because they're not peeing their pants. They could be intimate with their wife again because, they have a penile implant now. Then I fell in love with the quality of life aspect and how much we were impacting people's lives. I did that for 10 years. Like, it was amazing. It was so much fun.
Yeah. And I love what you said is like the impact that you got to see. When you said that you're going to go meet with patients before, I think about companies that will do that afterwards. And what happens is the sales always goes up.
Oh, of course.
Because the reps get to see, wow, this is what we actually
do. We're making a difference.
Exactly. Right. So I love that. And one thing you said that I really want to just get out to everyone is like, again, when you're first getting in the industry, a lot of people are just trying to break in. The one thing I always just have to put a forewarning on there is I watch people who just take a job to take a job, right? It's kind of like I'm just dating someone to date someone. But normally it doesn't work out because what we watch is some people will just take a job to take a job, and then they didn't do a vetting process. They didn't make sure it was a good fit for both parties.
Correct.
And then 3 months later, they're calling me and being like, my manager's trying to fire me or something's going on. And then they're in a tougher spot compared to if they would have just waited for a good place. And why I share that is you said something that you were really excited with Ben of the human being, the people. And I think that's what most people miss is they think about the product all the time, which again, the product's going to change lives. We're in medical device sales, but who's the team you're a part of? Who are you with? Because everyone, and I hear this all the time, but I love talking to everyone now that I'm an owner. If someone's an employee, I just go talk to them and I ask them about their job and all this stuff. And it's the common theme. I heard this, they said, well, right now my manager is not that great, so I don't like it. But if my manager was good, I would love this. And what that showed me is, to everyone that's thinking about a job or where you're working, the people matter so much more.
It's always the most important.
More than the product or whatever. The culture is going to be the reason that you stay. And I experienced that. I had people reach out to us. Actually, funny enough, a company you're very close with reached out to me after I took my job at Innovis, offered me way more money. But I was just like, I love the people here. I love the opportunity, and I was traveling. But I say that for most people think it's just the money and products. But what you don't understand is most people will actually forego the money if they have a good culture. On that
I've had people that I have tried to recruit for positions where I know we could have paid them more. I know for sure they would have made double what they're making, but they're like, man, I love my manager. I love my doctors. I love my, my whatever. And I think that speaks volumes. And I'm fortunate. I've gotten to the point now where I can make my decisions based on the people. Like that is the number one thing is who am I going to be reporting to? Do I connect with them as a person? Do I respect their leadership? Do they have a skill set that I'm anxious to learn from? Those are the most important things, right? Like the company or the product. I mean, those things are still on my checklist, but they're not the number one thing anymore. The money isn't either. It's who am I going to be? Number one is who am I going to be reporting to? Who am I going to be working with? That's what brings me the biggest joy now is not only the teams that I get to work with or the teams that I get to build, the customers that I get to work with. It's all the human element of it, you know?
And I just want everyone to hear that because, again, when you guys are first breaking in, right, when Angelo's like, it's not about the money anymore. I know like the people who are trying to break in, it's like, well, I need to pay my bills. And it's like, great, yeah, you need to get in. You need to get into this industry, come and learn. But I'm talking more to those reps that are 1, 2, 3, 4+ years. It's like, hey, you have the experience. Make sure the next jump or next company you're with, that you actually enjoy the people, that you're 100%. Excited about the opportunity.
I think too, one of the things, as you know, like I talked to you when you were breaking in, and I talked to a lot of people. That's just kind of what happens, right? Over time when you get a lot of gray hair like me. One of the things I always do when I'm talking to people that have never been in the industry and they're wanting to break in, I kind of try and give them an overview of the different types of sales within med device and what type of job function or what your daily activities would be based on what you're selling. And does that fit with your personality, right? So the way I see it from a very high level, you have capital equipment. So you're selling big, CT scanners or whatever that might be. That's a very long sales process. You're going to be putting together a lot of data, a lot of spreadsheets, a lot of presentations. You're going to be talking about ROI. You're going to be talking to CEOs and CFOs, and it's a very long sales cycle. And you might get 1 or 2 sales a year, right? That is a completely different type of person who's going to enjoy that versus implantables. You're selling knees and hips and shoulders. Man, you're out there in the trenches, right? You're going to the doctor's office. You're trying to do lunch and learns. You're showing up early to the OR. You're talking to the doctor at the scrub sink. You're covering cases, right? You're selling to the doctor. That is a relationship sale. Your relationship is everybody involved. It's everybody at the office. It's everybody at the hospital. You'll probably never even meet the CEO or the CFO of a hospital, and that's okay, right? You might look at like disposable products, right? More commodity type products where you're not going to really ever talk to the surgeons. You're not going to talk to the C-suite, but you're going to talk to all those purchasing agents, right? You're going to be building those relationships. You're going to be talking about things like contracts, and you're going to be talking about things like, waste and whatever other avenues you're trying to go down. Those are different completely different job types. Your days are going to be completely different, and you want to make sure your personality matches up with that.
Yes.
Like I meet some of these people where, they're like a true introvert, and they're like trying to get this job where they're going to go sell whatever implants or whatever. And I'm like, man, I don't know if that's the right thing for you.
It could be tough. Yeah.
It's not to say like I have this colleague of mine. He's kind of a legend in the med device industry. He actually lives in Phoenix. He's retired now. He was an engineer, an introvert. I'd known that guy for 10 years. He probably said 7.5 words to me the whole time. That was one of the most successful implant sales reps I ever met.
Yep.
So this is not a rule, right?
Yep.
But I think you should try and like really do your research and make sure, because like you said, some people are just so desperate to just get in, they'll
Yep.
take anything.
Yep.
But then they find out, like I did with Stryker, man, maybe I got into something where it doesn't really fit my personality or my style.
Yeah, and then what happens though is I see this happen a lot, and then they don't like medical device sales because
Right,
they're
they
like
get jaded, right?
Yeah, they're
Like,
jaded,
that sucks. Like,
and they're like medical
Right.
device sales stinks. And I'm like, well, no, that's like coming to one state in the United States and you went to one city
Right.
inside of the United
Like,
States.
the
And you're
US
like,
is not for
yeah,
me.
the U.S. is not
Right,
for me. I'm like,
right.
if you would have traveled somewhere else, you probably would love it. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
So it's just a big point that I always want to make sure that everyone knows, because I always bring it back to dating for everyone, but people they don't understand the business piece, but they understand the dating. I'm like, you can't just be desperate, because if you're desperate, those companies can feel desperate.
Yes.
And then when
Yeah.
you're in a relationship, it's like, and then you become needy, and eventually that gets old. And so I just share that. It's like, make sure that it's the people. Now, again, you go into Men's Health, and then you start having a lot of success, like you said.
Yeah.
And then you start climbing the ranks, and then you've been in the positions where you've also hired reps and you've built teams, right? I really want to touch on this piece of it, because what have you seen from your experience that people who want to break into this industry, or people that are in the industry but interviewing for new jobs, what do you feel like they should be doing, or some of the characteristics that they should have that you've seen from the teams that you've built that have been successful?
I think the biggest thing, if they're trying to break in,
Yeah.
they need to be polished. They need to do their research and kind of just the basic things, right? If you haven't prepared on a basic level, and you don't have experience or relationships and a Rolodex to fall back on,
Yep.
you're probably doomed to fail,
Yep.
right? And so, this is kind of like breaking into med device 101. You need to know if they're a publicly traded company or a private company.
Come on.
If they're publicly traded, take a look at their stock ticker. Take a look at their stock price,
Yep.
right? Take a look at their last few press releases. Know if they have a new technology. Know if they just did an investment in something most recently. Research. Maybe listen to their last earnings call. All public companies, their earnings calls are out there to listen to. Listen to their earnings call. Talk about the direction of the company that they're going. Do your research on the products in the division. Know how long it's been around. Do your research on the person. It's so easy now. There's LinkedIn, right? You can do your research on the person you're interviewing with. So you definitely want to do those basics. I'm a firm believer in, if you're trying to break in, if I'm hiring for a clinical role,
Yep.
I'm concerned about different things versus if I'm hiring for a sales role.
Yes.
Right. So if I'm hiring for a clinical role, I want to know, are you empathetic? Do you truly care about patients? Are you a naturally caring person with high emotional intelligence?
Yep.
I don't really care if you're super driven, type A, light the world on fire, competitive. I was an ex-college athlete.
Yep.
Not for a clinical, that's nice,
Yeah.
right? But typically, you're looking for a different type of person. When I hired clinicals, when I was at Axonics, I really liked hiring people that came from a nursing background.
Yep. 100%.
People that don't care about people and don't have empathy don't become nurses, right? Now, on the flip side, if I'm hiring for a sales role, then I want to look for kind of a different thing,
Yep.
right? And so if you're trying to break in and you're trying to break in as a clinical, then you have to tailor your experience and you have to sell yourself and tailor your messaging around what that role entails,
Yep.
right? I'm very passionate about patient care. I had a sick grandmother that I took care of. Like, I volunteered at a nursing home, right? Like, whatever you did in your past that's applicable to that, you want to highlight that. If you're trying to break in for sales, one of the things that I tell everybody when they're trying to break in, I ask them, what's the company? Okay. What's the division? What's the product? What's the specialty? All right. So now your goal is, if it's GYNs, do some research. Your goal is to come up with 4 questions about the product or about the company, and get in front of 2 or 3 OBGYNs in your city and ask them those questions. It doesn't even matter if they're good questions. All it demonstrates is that this person, without a job, without a business card, without scrubs, without a name tag, without a big company name behind them, they were able to get into that office, sweet talk the person at the front desk, convince a doctor to take time out of their busy schedule to talk with them, and look at these questions that I asked, right? Look at the interaction I had with the physician. Man, that would put my mind at ease right there. I'm like, dude, this kid figured it out all on his own, right? So little things like that can kind of make you stand out, I think are instrumental in helping you break in, right? That, and I think you have to be tenacious. You have to have some tough skin, right? And remember, like, think of it in phases. Your first goal is to make sure your resume is squared away to the point where an internal or external recruiter is going to look at it and go, oh, okay, this kid's got something. And then you get that phone call. Once you get on that phone call, you got to sell yourself on why you're not going to let that recruiter down if they put you in front of that first interview. Your goal is to get to that interview. Once you get to that interview, don't worry about your resume. Like, if they bring it up, you can talk about it. Hey, I sold cell phones. I worked at Enterprise Rent-A-Car. I did this. I did that. That's fine. But now it's just this. Right? And I think the last thing I'll say is you should be asking a lot of questions. You should be asking a lot of questions about the opportunity, about the person sitting across from you. What is their management style like? Come up with some thoughtful questions. Like, hey, tell me about a time somebody had failed on your team and then turned it around. What did that look like? Tell me about a time when somebody exceeded your expectations. What did that look like? Like, tell me about a time where you were struggling and you were able to turn it around. Like, ask some actual thought-provoking questions. Again, to show that you have that emotional intelligence and you're going to be that type of person that they want to spend time with.
And that's what I was just going to say is when you ask those questions, the funny thing is you can actually mold to what they're wanting to see. For example, one of the questions we've asked is like, hey, can you tell me about the best performing rep that you've ever had? And the reason I just share that's a very general one, but why we share that is many times, hey, what are you looking for to consider this a successful hire? They're going to tell you, oh, I just need A, B, C, right? And then you go ask about who was the best rep, and then you found out there's six things.
It's other things besides
that
those
they didn't even mention. And then now, if you're emotional intelligent, you're picking it up. Now you can mirror, hey, here's some times I did something that this top performing rep did and bring it to.
I mean, I guess the other thing I would say too is it's really important, I think, for people to be genuine.
Come on.
We talk to people every day, all day long. Like, our BS meters are pretty good.
High.
Right?
Yeah, that you can tell.
And when somebody is BSing me, I'm like, I can smell it a mile away, right? I always, for good or for bad, like, you get me, right? Like, there's kind of like, it just is what it is. And, you know, over the years, that's probably been a detriment to my career in some situations, but on many things, inauthentic is never anything that anybody could ever say I've ever been, right? And that has served me well. I'm not everybody's cup of tea, but you're going to know what you get, right? And they know that I'm going to be open and honest, right? They know that if I don't know something, I'm going to be honest about it. When I do know something, I'm really proud they're going to know about it, right? Like, and I think a lot of times people, they come into these interviews and they think they have to project themselves as something they're not. And I can tell you ain't that, right? Like, when I get somebody coming in there and they're trying to act like, you know, all crazy, you know, macho or you know, super competitive, I'm like,
that's not you.
No, that's not you. And that's okay. That's not you, you know? And then on the flip side, when I get some like mercenaries sitting across from me and they're like, oh yeah. And they're like speaking all gentle. I'm like, hey man, like, show me your real self. I know this ain't you.
I know you got some energy down there.
Correct. Yeah. So I think that's the biggest thing is you are who you are, right? And it's about finding the right fit for who you truly are, not molding yourself to be something you're not to fit into this square peg round hole.
Can I just share that's why you've been so successful, or one of the reasons you've been so successful? And I just want to say this from the fact of what you just said is you accepted you're not going to be for everyone.
Right.
And I always bring it back to in business or when we're trying to have friends or whatever, people find that really hard, but it's like, you're not going to marry every human being you talk to.
Yeah.
Right. And not everyone you go out on dates with is going to find you the best cup
Yeah.
of tea, all the stuff. Right. And so I
Yeah.
just share that to your point, is that that's actually one of the biggest things I'm always just trying to teach people is like, don't be fake. You're talking to sales leaders. That's all they do is they sell, and they can
Yeah.
tell if, like you just said, your meter's up high. But then what happens though is, this is the other thing. What if you're trying to guess? First off, you're going to talk to 6 different people during the interview process. They're all different. And when you say one thing, if you're just trying to fit their mold, it doesn't show consistency. So they're going to be like, well, this.
Yeah, what are you going to do? You're going to be 5, 6 different people?
Exactly. So it doesn't show. That's number one. And then number two, I always make the joke with people. I'm like, what if you say you love sushi, but you hate
You don't,
seafood?
right.
And then you get hired, and then they take you out for sushi.
Right.
It's like, it's no different than dating. You can't lie your way in it. You might get it in, but that relationship's not going to last more than a couple months, because then the real you
100%.
comes out. And so that's the one thing I just want people to always hear, whether you're in the industry or you're not in the industry. It's the same thing with, if you're talking to surgeons, everyone's a prospect to an extent, right?
Yeah.
But like, you're not going to vibe with every surgeon. Not
No.
every surgeon's going to want to use your stuff.
Right.
And that's okay. Because I watch so many people focus on the no and try to like let me get this, instead of just be like, hey, let me just align with human beings that align with me.
Right.
And then you can go have way more success in that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny when I had first gotten hired at American Medical Systems by my buddy Ben, he says it to this day. He just said it a few weeks ago. Him and I were somewhere together with some physicians, and he's like, when I hired Angelo, I knew he was either going to be the best hire or the worst hire I ever knew. He's like, and I'm still not sure which one he is, but it's funny at the time, I'm Italian, right? And so I had this gold chain with an Italian horn that's really big in our culture. You know, it's given to you as a gift, and it's supposed to be good luck. And I had really long sideburns, like Elvis style sideburns, and I had a goatee, and I did the interview. And at the time, there was this amazing guy named Kyle who was the area sales director, and he was a West Point grad. He's very buttoned up, and he loved me, but I was wearing I had on like a really fancy suit with like a maroon shirt and monochromatic matching maroon tie. He's like, this kid looks like he just stepped off like the set of Casino or Godfather or something. He's like, I like him. He's like, but he's got to tuck that chain in, and he's got to shave his sideburns. He's got to shave his goatee, And so Ben comes and tells me that. Now there's 2 different versions of this story. Ben's version is that I shaved my goatee and I shaved my sideburns, and I said, I'm not taking the chain off. The truth is, I didn't do any of those things. I said, I'm not doing any of those things. Like, I am who I am.
Yep.
Like, take me or leave me.
Yep.
And again, I think that goes back to just be yourself. The other thing that comes to mind is I don't golf. I've never golfed, right? I have golfed a few times.
Yes.
It's just, I've never gotten into it.
Yep, I'm with
It's
you.
just not something I enjoy. Man, I can't tell you how many people over the years had told me like, you don't go, you got to golf.
You need to learn how to golf.
You have to golf.
Yep.
I don't.
Yep.
And when a physician brings it up, do you golf? No, I don't. Oh, you don't? No, but I'm happy to talk about it.
Yeah.
And I'll show you how much I don't know about golf.
Yeah.
That's totally fine. But that's fine. It's not, I don't have to sit there and pretend that I golf. I don't have to make up a story about how I just played Pebble Beach or something like that. I don't golf, man.
You're not a yes man.
Right.
And I think that goes far away. So just so you know, I'm the same with you. As I played in high school. I play once or twice a year. I have buddies who love it.
Right.
And then they're like, do you want to go? And I'm like, no. And I share that because it's the same thing with all these surgeons. You get told what you have to do to be successful. And I would just want to encourage everyone. Most of the people that you watch, or most of the people that we know, brands and stuff, are there because they didn't do what everyone else did. And I would just say, lean into who you are. Again, to an extent, right? You have to know what setting you're in and all of those
It has to be
aspects.
appropriate and professional.
Exactly. But
right.
I just share that to everyone who's out there, because for you, like you said, be true to you, because I think that's where, when you're true to you, they choose you because of who you are.
Right.
You're in a culture of where you feel like you belong, and you sell something that is working and you fully believe in it. Watch what happens from that.
100%.
And I just want to put that out there, because I talk to so many reps and I talk to so many people in the industry, and it's like, they tell me all the shoulds or what they're supposed to do. And that's why I have mentors. That's why I love talking to people who have way more experience, because the number one thing that happens, especially even when I tell people now, my mentors that I pay to help me, they're like, well, why do you say that? And I'll be like, well, I have to. And they're like, oh, you do?
Yeah.
Tell me why.
Why do you have to?
And then they'll challenge on my belief systems. And I just share that to everyone who, you may think you have to because 1 or 2 or 3 people told you, but it's kind of like, you're supposed to have sales experience compared, but we've helped thousands of people like break in with no sales experience because of exactly what you said. Is we watch plenty of people who have sales experience, but customers were coming to them to buy the thing.
Right.
And it's like, what makes you better than the person who, is out hustling? Or like, I'll just tell you, I love personal trainers, because personal trainers usually, if they're good ones, work long hours, wake up early, stay late, make no money. And then if you give them an opportunity to...
Yeah, but they're passionate about what they do, right?
Yes,
yeah, and
exactly.
they believe in a long-term...
And they want to help people too.
Right.
And so there's that. And then you couple that with, hey, you can do the exact same thing and actually still personal train on the side if you do this right. There's a lot of things in those aspects. But no, I really appreciate you saying that, because again, I think that's one of the things is there are a lot of times these cookie cutters, you have to be this way.
No way, man. Look, we talked about like people like me or people like, a hiring manager being able to smell when somebody is not being authentic.
Yeah.
You talk about physicians, that's all they do. Think about it. When a physician walks in a room, they use their eyes, they smell, they listen to what you say, they touch, they feel. They are the most perceptive people on the face of the planet. That's how they diagnose things. They're going to be able to smell you coming a mile away as well if you're not true to yourself, right? And all they have all day long is people coming in and putting them up on a pedestal and being disingenuous to them. Oh my God, you're the greatest thing, right? Like, they don't like that. Like, just be a good human, be genuine, be yourself. They're going to appreciate that way more than coming in and putting on a show. They're going to know you're lying,
100%. Like you said, that's what people miss, is as you get with a lot of professionals and people who've been in this industry and done whatever they do for a profession long enough, they know who's real, who's not fake. They know who's real, they know who's fake.
Yes.
They know who's actually going to do things. And again, there's so many, like you said, yes men, or people who are just trying to make you feel good. But like, somebody said this to me, and I just absolutely loved it. And it was, if you're for everybody, you're for no one.
Yeah.
And at some point you have to be okay with, hey, I'm not going to be a cup of tea for everybody.
Right.
But that's okay. But the people I'm supposed to be with, it's going to go well.
Yeah.
So I love that. Now, can you give some advice to the reps that are in the industry? We get a lot of people that are 1, 3, 5 years that are still watching this.
Sure.
You've worked with so many reps. You've been successful in the industry. What's the thing that you see these reps can do to have themselves stand out no matter what organization they're a part of, to be a top rep, or to at least take it to the next level, right? Maybe you're in your first 6 to 12 months, you're supposed to get all this training. Maybe you got all this training, but you're still feeling lost. Reps are busy, other people are busy. What could they do, or what are the key characteristics that you see in your reps that are successful in those aspects of it?
Well, I think the first thing, they have to decide truly like what their goals are outside of their quota, outside of, their annual goal or whatever it might be, right? So do they want to just remain a rep and be the best rep they can and make President's Club every year? Okay, that's fine. Like, that's a different set of goals.
Yep.
Are they passionate about training? Do they want to maybe be a field sales trainer? Do they maybe want to one day be the director of training? Do they want to get into marketing? Do they want to get into physician education? Do they want to get into product management, right? These companies are big, and that's the beauty of being in the med device and working for these large organizations. Once you're in, you're in. And man, you can start out as a clinical and become the CEO of the company. You can start out as a sales rep and become the CEO. You can start out as whatever and become, global product manager. Like, once you're in, you could move around. And so I think, one, people have to just truly take a step back and say, okay, I know this is so cliche to say, but like, what is my 3 and 5 year plan, right? Where do I want to be 3 years from now? Where do I want to be 5 years from now? Make sure that's what you really want, number one. Number two, figure out how to get there. And so whatever that is, then that's going to dictate what you do. So if your goal is to make President's Club 3 years in a row and make Founders Club or whatever it is, great. Well, figure out the people that have already done it.
Yep.
Start talking to them. Ask your manager, hey, can I go ride along with Sharon out in, Dallas, because she's made Founders Club and she's made President's Club 5 years in a row.
Yep.
Chances are they're probably going to say yes to that. Hey, I have a big meeting coming up. Can I have Sharon come in town with me? If your goal is you want to get into training, great. Like, reach out to that director of training. Yep. See if you can start doing quarterly calls with that person. Yep. How did you develop this training program? Is there any way I can help out? Like, can we start having quarterly calls, monthly calls, whatever? You have to figure out what your goal is, and then you have to start kind of taking steps to build your foundation of skills in order to get to that next thing.
Yep. And what you said, I want everyone to hear is, like you said, have a goal, but what are you doing to take action to actually make it happen, right? Like you said, if most people reached out to their managers and said, hey, could I go shadow? Most of them would probably say yes. But most reps don't do that because they assume they'll say no, or they're too busy in their current position.
Right.
But like what you just said is, if somebody would actually just show initiative and show that they're hungry and show that they want to continue to keep learning, they'll go. And you said you could become the CEO, you could be global product training. The one thing I want to say is a global product manager, but like what you said is, I want everyone to hear is not in a year, not in 2 years. Like, take time, make the 3 to 5 years, because it's funny, when I was younger, going back to that confidence and everything, I got hired during COVID. So I'm like, take your 3-year plan and throw it out the window, because 3-year plans don't actually matter, because you'll have COVID happen.
Right.
I do still believe that to an extent, for the fact of, I watch a lot of people trap themselves because they made a 3-year, 5-year, and then they can't veer at all because they're like, no, I have to do this piece. But to an extent, I believe wholeheartedly now with the 5-year plan, like especially once you're in the industry, of like, be open, let's still have conversations, let's learn, let's get new data, but still chase what you're going after, because again, you have to have a roadmap on how you would even get there, and then just understand it could change throughout that process.
Yeah, and I think you have to be observant and realistic enough to know if your goals align with your timeline and if that truly fits within the organization you're in. Like when you're at these really large companies, there's only one VP of sales for this division. There's only 2 sales directors. There's only 8 regional managers, right? Is it realistic for you to go from an associate rep to being a sales director in 3 years? No, that's never going to happen. There's 25 people in front of you in that line that have been there 5, 10, 15, 20 years, right? So you have to be realistic. And look, sometimes if you're dead set on this goal, and by looking at kind of history and facts at your organization, it's going to take you 15 years before you get to that director position, then look, maybe the answer is you leave. Maybe you go to another company. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And I hate to say this, because there's nothing that annoys me more when I look at a resume and it's 2 years here, 18 months here, 9 months here, 2 years here. Like, nobody wants to invest in somebody like that. So you have to be careful, right? But on the flip side, there's nothing wrong with being somewhere for 3 years, 5 years, getting a really good foundation, building a skill set, building your Rolodex, building your experience, and then realizing I can do more, and I can do more right now, but it's going to take me another 5 or 10 years. Maybe I should look and see if I can go do more for someone else. And that might mean going to a smaller company. A lot of it is luck and timing. It really is. So maybe there's an opportunity with another company that's a really large company, but they just started a new division, or they expanded, or somebody left. A lot of it is luck and timing, right? The geography you live in, are you willing to move, those types of things. But I think that's where a lot of people get stuck. They want this progression, but I hate to say this, I don't want this to sound bad, but they don't have the courage to leave and take that leap of faith and go somewhere else, right? But you got to decide what you want more, right? Do you want to chase your dreams, or do you want to stay on the path you're on, and maybe it's more safe or a little bit more comfortable?
Yeah, I was just saying, play it more safe. And what you just said is so good, for the fact of most people, like you just said, might want to have this title, but they think they have to stay at one spot just to get there. And what we always talk about is, that's not saying leave because we want to show loyalty, right? But in the same aspect of it is, like, I always have this conversation with, we live in business world. We all know somebody who's been part of a massive layoff because the company they just had to, right? And so I always watch people sacrifice their life, and they do all this stuff for a company, which is great, and you should, because there's a piece, but you also have to understand you can't take it personal. A company is going to be like, hey, sorry, we think you're great. We know you just moved out here and you have kids and family. But at the end of the day,
they have to make the decision that's best for their company and their shareholders. That's just a fact of life.
And that's what I just share. It's
nothing personal.
Exactly. And I share that because I feel like everybody should be the own CEO of their own life and their own business. And when they're working for a company, it's the same thing. Hey, am I still valued here? Am I providing value? Like, you have those check-ins with yourselves. One of the people that, when I first started getting in the industry, she was a VP at a large medical device company. She told me that she actually lets everyone know in her company that she interviews with other companies each year. And she says she does at least one interview per year. And that's just to make sure that she sees what else is out there.
Yeah.
And if my company is so great, I'm going to stay here no matter what.
Right.
Right. So it lets her see how.
Give her a reason to stay.
Exactly.
Right.
It shows how lucky she is and all of the aspects, but it also shows what's out there. But I want to put that out there because, again, I think what you just said is like, hey, you can have your goals, but I watch too many people just set a goal, but then they don't have a plan.
Yeah.
And then they set a goal, but like we were talking earlier, they marry the plan and it has to look how they drew it up.
Right.
But what they don't understand is you could actually achieve this, but instead of being here, it could be up, down, zigzag, back, forth, and it could look a little different than what you said.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think for the most part, promotions just aren't given in any industry, but definitely not med device, right? I mean, they want to see that you're the one raising your hand. Like, hey, we're going to maybe put a committee together to talk about this. Hey, I'll do that. Like, hey, who wants to help out? I'll do that, right? And that shows not only are you willing to do more work, and you're willing to help out when people need it or the company needs it. But it also shows, I think, from a personality standpoint, you're hungry for knowledge, right? You want to get more exposure. You want to learn more. And I think that's the trait that they look for.
You just make yourself more valuable. That's what I think people miss.
It's more exposure. It's more knowledge.
Exactly. Because I think that's what people miss. I hear this all the time, and I've talked to so many founders, right? And what people miss, especially employees, it's I don't get paid enough to do that. Compared to if they turn the mindset and they just didn't think about it, what happens is if you just learn all this and you do the extra work, eventually a company's like, we can't afford not to have this person, so we'll pay him more. And so usually when it comes into raises, and again, that's not always, right? But if you're thinking about like how a CEO or like these upper managements look at it, they're like, well, why would I pay the person who's barely just getting by? Why would we give them the raise compared to this person who says yes to everything, always available, and go in that aspect? Yeah,
it's funny because sometimes, you'll hear like, well, why am I going to do that? That's not my job. Oh man,
come on.
That's a wrong attitude to have, right?
Which what happens over the next couple of years of your career.
Correct. And this is something that I'm very passionate about being on the startup side because we're so starved for people, resources, right? Everybody has to wear a million different hats. When I was at Axonics, Ray Cohen, an amazing CEO, extremely successful, extremely smart, right? Guy's the CEO, founder of the company. He raised $750 million for that company, sold it for $3.7 billion.
Absolutely amazing.
He was in the shipping and receiving room with his tie off, sleeves rolled up, taking product and packaging it and taping up boxes to send them out. I assure you that's not his job. Right? But that speaks to the mindset of somebody who has made it to that level. There's a job to be done. I'm not above anything in this company. And it needs to be done and I'm going to do it. And so those words of that's not my job, I guarantee you Ray Cohen and probably every other CEO in med device or any other industry has never uttered those words. Never.
No, and I love what you just said there for the fact that if you actually take business advice, scaling all of the aspects, they'll actually say, don't do that. For the fact of your CEO, you should be doing A, B, C, D. But
when you scale, that's different. Right? I mean, like
different stages.
It's not like that's not a good use of a CEO's time in the room.
In certain stages. But I just say this for the fact of I'm actually reading I love reading books, and I'm reading Leaders Eat Last by Simon Sinek. And it just goes back to exactly what you're saying is they're going to watch the leader and how that leader leads.
Take their cues.
Right.
Sure.
And then it's like, I actually had that happen to me is one time, young 23-year-old working in a personal training gym. I had a job and one of my checklists was take out the trash. I didn't take out the trash one day. And the owner of the gym came in and I just was training somebody and I watched him take out the trash. He didn't yell at me. He didn't say anything. He didn't even remind me. He just walked the trash out.
Yeah.
That was one of the best lessons I've ever
He made sure you saw it though, right?
Right.
Yeah.
He did it right during the time. And trash was taken out every day after that.
Right.
Exactly what you're just saying is if they're willing to do it, why shouldn't I be? Right. And so I just love that you say that because again, that's what I think. We come from a place that it's almost an entitled place of like, hey, well, I've already done my job or whatever, but the most
I paid my dues or whatever. Yeah, it's easy to happen, right?
Exactly, because you go through it. But the most successful people I ever talked to, and I've met and I get mentored by, they never say anything to that. And they're still always trying to learn, and they're still trying to talk to people. And so it's just interesting.
Yeah.
You see the mindset shift. Now, I really wanted to touch on this because I think this is going to be very helpful for a lot of the people. Is you've done it all pretty much. You've done the big organization, you've done a distributorship, and then you've also been a part of like startup scale-ups that have also exited, right? And now you're part of another startup, right? Can you just kind of talk us through like what's the difference of like being at a startup compared to being at like an established business?
Yeah, man, it's a world of difference.
This could be a whole podcast by itself.
Yeah. So I think high level, you have early stage startup, which in my opinion is going to be anything probably pre-FDA approval, pre-commercialization. And then you have post-commercialization startup. And then, not to make it more convoluted, you can have startups that have been commercialized for 4 or 5 years and they have $200-400 million in sales. They're still probably considered a startup from the textbook answer, but that is vastly different. When an organization already has a couple $100 million in sales and they have 1,500 employees, 300 people in the field, that is completely different from pre-FDA approval, 7 people.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing is you're creating something from nothing. It doesn't exist. Nothing exists. Nothing, right? And so if you think about a big med device company, we're so regulated. How many SOPs there are for everything, right? There's a formalized training program. There's a formalized onboarding process. There's checklists that exist. Something as simple as like who orders the computer for this new person, right? Who sets them up on their benefit package? What is the process for when you have a complaint on a product? Like none of that exists when you're at an early stage startup. And so I think I was very fortunate with my distributorships. I had 3 different ones over the years and they were all fairly different. And that kind of set me up for success for my first med device startup, which was Contura. So Contura International is a company that is based out of London. They have a fantastic technology of a polyacrylamide-based hydrogel. And they utilize it in different spaces. And I was fortunate enough to get a call from a really good friend of mine who got a call from the CEO, and they wanted to commercialize this product in the US. This was in early 2019. And my dear friend, Casey Cannell, he's very well known in the med device industry in urology, and he had gotten a call. And at first they wanted him to be a master distributor in the US. They had done business in a bunch of other countries through distributors. And the company was based out of London. Like I said, they manufactured out of Denmark, and this is what we did in all these other countries. We're going to have a distributor. So Casey knew that I had experience with distributorships, and so he called me up. This was in, I think, February of 2019. He's like, hey, I have this opportunity to take a look at this product. I had sold female pelvic health products for incontinence with American Medical Systems. So I kind of knew that space a little bit, and he knew I knew distributorships. And so I looked at the product and I'm like, man, this product is like, I firmly believed it was going to change the way physicians treated stress urinary incontinence in females, but it wasn't right for a distributorship for various reasons. And so I told that to Casey and I said, let's pitch them on a model. Let's show them the difference, because they wanted to sell the company to a US based. They wanted to get FDA approval and sell. And so we showed them the difference between companies that sell when they own their own sales force versus companies that go through a distributor. Right? It's just not as valuable when you don't own that that chain. And so we pitched them on the idea. They loved it. Casey got a team together. He brought in Tim Kelp and he brought in Omar Mojica, and we started down this path, and we consulted for Contura for a whole year, all of 2019, until they got FDA approval. And then we ended up pitching them on this model where we opened up a US company, and Casey and Omar and Tim and myself had ownership in that company. And we came up with the distribution model and the commercialization plan and how we were going to distribute the product in the US, and basically just built it from there. And that was a great experience because that was my first. And it was very unique because the company was already established in the UK and they did business in a bunch of other a bunch of other countries, but never in the US.
Yep.
But then when we started in January of 2020, and we had this great plan, and we had backing from the board with capital, and then COVID hit. And a couple of things happened. One, the board said, nope, we're pulling back all this funding. And so we had to figure out how to sell these products and how to commercialize this with just 4 people throughout the whole country. And our CEO couldn't come over to the US because of the travel ban. So we were just like 4 knuckleheads, like not knowing what we were doing. And we're like, we had to figure out everything on our own. And, you know, myself and Tim had a lot of experience running our own companies.
Yep.
And so we leaned on that experience. I leaned on my early experience with distributorships. Casey had phenomenal relationships in urology. Omar had phenomenal relationships. Omar had just such a great mind for sales messaging and sales strategy. And we kind of had this ragtag crew, and we were able to figure it out. And so that was my first foray into startups. And it was just by chance, you know, like I said, Casey called me just to look at this presentation deck.
Yeah.
What do you think? Should I become a distributor? And I'm like, no, man, let's do this ourselves. He's like, you would leave. I was working for Boston Scientific at the time. He's like, you would leave to do this? I have a very high risk tolerance. I don't mind taking chances. And going back to what we had said at the very beginning, financially, like I was in a good place where, because I was so responsible and because I lived below my means, I'm like, yeah, I'll roll the dice. Like,
it allows options,
100%.
right? And you can roll the dice to hit big.
Dude,
right?
I'm a Vegas kid. Let's go.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Let's go. I'm rolling 7-Eleven, you know, right? And so we did, and it was probably the best experience in my professional career.
Love it.
So the goal was to commercialize that product, get that crazy hockey stick trajectory with revenue, and sell it to a US based company. And long story short, we did. Ray Cohen and Axonics saw what the potential was for this product. And they came to the table. We exited in March of 2021. And that was my first. I hit not quite a home run, but because I wasn't, you know, I was low on the totem pole there too. But I had ownership, and I definitely hit a solid triple my first at bat for sure. You know,
I love it. And then you guys got purchased, right?
Yes.
And then you're at Axonics.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. And I love this because I always just want to put full circle moments. You took the risk and you left Boston Scientific.
Correct.
And then you went
for a company that, first of all, didn't even have FDA approval. Had never sold anything in the US. It was a $900 ASP on the product at the time. And the market for what's called urethral bulking, the market at the time in the US was about a $15 million market total. Boston Scientific probably was the market leader with a product that they had. And the female sling space, using mesh slings for female incontinence, because of what had happened in 2010 and 11, there was an FDA mesh warning. That market was down about 50% historically from its high. So you want to talk about the chip stacked against you? Like, so many people when I was leaving Boston, they're like, "You're crazy.
Yeah, what are you doing?
What are you doing?"
Exactly.
Like, no, I just have a feeling. I think this is going to be good. And what's worst case scenario doesn't work out? Like,
and you go back.
I'll go get another job, or you hire me back. Exactly.
Exactly.
And so rolled those dice.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
And then can we just say, who did Axonics get acquired by?
Yeah, so fast forward, I ended up staying on with Axonics. I loved Axonics. I loved the leadership there, and had a really great time. And Axonics got acquired in November of 2024 by Boston Scientific.
Yeah, and I just share that because I love the full circle moment, right?
Full
like
circle.
you left to then go, and I just share that because, like you said, when I left Medtronic, it was, you're crazy. What's nuts? Like, what are you doing? First off, that was like right after COVID. I saw stuff, and I'm like, guys, do you see what's about to happen?
Yeah.
And again, you're the crazy one until you're not crazy.
You know what's funny too is when we were commercializing that Bulkamid product in 2020, it took off. I have some great stories. Like, we could spend another few hours there, but it took off like gangbusters, right? And again, just us 4 idiots running around the whole entire country. I took 140 flights in 2020.
Wow.
And that was during COVID. We had no rules, right? Because we didn't have a corporation behind. So there's no one to tell us, no, you can't travel. There was like, I think March. So we didn't travel from March 11th when the travel ban hit. I had just gotten back from Finland. We were taking doctors out to Finland to train them, because originally we were going to have like 10, 12 doctors be our US trainers. But then that travel ban hit, we had to quickly develop an online training program. So we went from nothing, 2 weeks, we had an online training program. And then all of a sudden, first week of April, I'm getting phone calls from people like in Nebraska, like, hey, dude, I'm open. Come and train me. So I was taking flights. There was me, the 2 pilots, like 2 flight attendants, and like 1 other guy.
And it was $47 to get there.
100%. Yeah. But it's funny when we were shopping that product around, because we were selling the product and creating the market, but immediately trying to go and talk to other companies to buy it.
Yep.
And Casey was talking to people that he knew at Medtronic, and they're like, we don't see it. Like the market's 15, 20 million max.
Yep.
I was talking to people at Boston. They're like, Angelo, I love you. I wish you nothing but the best, but I think you made a huge mistake. Like that product's going nowhere. We were talking to people we knew at Coloplast, and like everybody didn't see it. And I couldn't be more proud that product, with our last year at Axonics, I think that product did about $87 million, if I'm not mistaken, in 4 years. Yep. And it's going to do over 100 this year with Boston Scientific.
Love that.
The whole bulking industry was 15 million maybe. And like, sometimes you just have to follow your gut, and you got to take that chance, and just don't listen to all the noise. Right?
And even when people say no, right? Like, I think that's one thing I want everyone to hear is you're very successful and you're willing to take the risk. Now, again, it's because you've been smart prior to that, right? Hey, let me make sure that I have some
lucky
money.
A little bit.
Yeah. And there's always luck. Yes.
Yeah.
But like being smart with your finances allow you to go get lucky, right? Everyone always says, hey, lucky.
You
It's
create
because you create your luck, right? But to that point is, you got told no. You got people telling you, and I just say this as most people I talk to, they got told no by 1, 2, 3 people. That's it.
Yeah.
But like you said, when you trust your gut and you're just willing to put in the work, to be on 140 flights, to just not take no as an answer. Yeah. Again, yes, sometimes the dice roll and you win, and it goes to that. But sometimes it won't win. But you have to at least go give everything you have to go make it happen.
And that's what we did. I mean, we just basically didn't have any choice, right? We had launched that product in February of 2020 at the SUFU meeting, which was in Phoenix at the time. And we had a bunch of stuff. This was before COVID, right? In the US anyways, we had a bunch of stuff that was supposed to be coming over from the UK. We had no money, small budget. And so we had our exhibitor table. We had a 6-foot table. Yep. And Coloplast was on one side, Medtronic was on the other. Medtronic had this huge booth with like couches and coffee machines and big screen TVs. And then right across from Medtronic was Axonics, and they had this amazing booth. We had this little 6-foot table, and all of our supplies didn't show up. And it was about 2 hours until curtain dropped, right? And our CEO had come over from the UK. Like I said, this is before the travel ban. Yeah. He's kind of freaking out. Our tablecloth didn't come, and our IV bags didn't come, and our cysto tubing sets didn't come, and we were gonna have a demo station set up, and everybody's freaking out except me and Casey and Tim and Omar, and we're like, we got this. Don't worry about it.
It'll be fun.
And it's like 5 p.m. right on a Friday. I'm like, okay, we need IV bags. We need cysto sets. I start calling some reps that I know. Is there any way you can go to a hospital? That's going nowhere. And I'm like, what about all those companies that do like IV therapy, like when you're hungover or whatever? Yep. So I call one of those companies. I'm like, I explain to them what I need, and they're like, we don't sell just IV bags and cysto tube. I'm like, sure you do. You can do that.
What's
like,
the price?
Well, what's the price? Yeah. Like, well, you can do that. And I'm like, just pretend you're coming over here as a bunch of bachelor party hungover or whatever. So long story short, I get that. Omar goes out and gets IV stand, and we kind of figure it out, and we still had no tablecloth, and we have this little 6-foot table in between all these massive booths, and then that was like my outside the box thinking, Omar's outside the box thinking, Tim's outside the box thinking, and then Casey goes to work because he knows everybody in the industry. Yeah. So about an hour before the cocktail hour, he's sending text messages. He's walking around, he's like the mayor of that whole city, right? He's like, hey, come check it out. And the cocktail hour starts, and I'm not kidding you. We had a line of like 60 physicians to come to a table with no tablecloth and check out this new product that these 4 guys were selling. Meanwhile, like, there's no one at the Medtronic booth. There's no one at the Axonics booth. Finally, myself and Casey, after we had a little break, we walked over to the Medtronic booth to grab a coffee. We're like, can we grab a coffee real quick? I need some energy over here, you know? And it was that Ray Cohen, the CEO of Axonics, he comes over. He's like a New York, he's from Long Island, right? So he's like very East Coast. And he's like, what the hell are you guys doing over here? Yeah. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, I just paid, $100,000 for this booth. I got TVs, I got couches, I got hardwood floors. He's like, you got a picnic table with no tablecloth, and I can't get any of these doctors over here. What is this thing? And it was that moment that he realized, holy crap, like this product is something special. Yep. These guys are something special. Yep. Like maybe I need to take a look at this. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. And it was, we knew right off the bat, like, again, like you talk about luck, like we lucked in, and my old CEO at Contura, Rakesh is his name. He said from the very beginning, he's like, I have zero doubt this is going to be successful for two reasons. He says, one, the four of you. Yep. Come on. Like, you guys are so unique. You guys all bring different skill sets. Yep. I'm supremely confident that if anybody can figure out how to build a company from scratch in the US and distribute this product, it's you guys. Yep. And number two, this product, I know historically, it'll do what it's always done. Once it gets introduced to a market, within 5 years, it's going to become the number one therapy because the product was that good. You put those two things together, people and product, that's it. I love it. Yeah. That is such a good story. Yeah. And I love just people thinking outside the box, being hungry. That was like, we had a year and a half of nothing but outside the box thinking, because like nothing existed. And like, I'm like, how do we do this? Like we had some challenges with the code and reimbursement early on, and we wanted to try and get our own code. And I knew a little bit about CPT codes. Obviously, I've been in med device for 15 years at that time, 14 years, whatever it was. And I'm like, okay, well, who dictates codes? All right, CMS does. Yep. All right, I need to talk to somebody at CMS. I had never spoken to anybody. Like, how do I do that? I have a friend of mine. He was actually my old partner in the distributorship. Okay. He lives in Florida now. His name is Brandon. He lucked into a different industry. He went into the gaming industry in Florida. Gotcha. And he owns a company that handles all the money for all the horse and dog tracks. No way. So he's a very wealthy individual now. Yeah. That's heavily regulated. And so he has Washington, D.C. lobbyists on retainer because they're constantly lobbying to get laws changed and stuff like that. So I call up Brandon. I said, hey, I need to talk to somebody at CMS. He goes, oh, you got to call my guy, Brian. I'm like, who's Brian? Oh, Brian Ballard. He's a big time lobbyist in DC. I'll set you up. So long story short, I do a call, Brandon Ballard, and he's like, or Brian Ballard. He's like, who do you need to talk to? I don't know. I need to talk to somebody at CMS. He goes, deputy chief. I'm like, yeah, that sounds good. Like deputy director of CMS. Yeah, sure. I just need. I would have taken an intern, but like no problem. And put him on retainer, and all of a sudden I'm on these conference calls with, the deputy director of CMS and talking to people at HHS. And so no knowledge base, no history, but just having that tenacity and that what is now like that attitude and that confidence of like, I know I can do anything, even if I've never done it before, I'll just figure it out. And that translates at whatever level. It doesn't matter if you're interviewing to try and get into med device, or it doesn't matter if you're a first or second or third year rep, or it doesn't matter if you've been in 20 years. Like if you have that attitude that anything is possible, and like you said, you don't put limits on yourself, you'll get it done. Yeah. And you never know where it can go, right? Like just by that's the most exciting part. Exactly. I think that's the thing that I watch with people that are love having success is like, for me and other people I've talked to, it's like, you never know what this conversation, you never know when I go travel. Like I was just making a joke. We walked into the airport and there was a lounge I never knew about in my whole day. Yeah. I'm like, oh, and then you go meet someone in there and you're like, oh, right. Yeah. So you just look at the different things. But to your point is you just have continued to stay open, but also as you've stayed open, you've continued to work. And I want to just. The work is fun, man. Yeah, exactly. So that makes it easy. Yeah. And I just want to highlight that because now you're sitting here as a vice president of sales. Yeah. And so can we just talk about that journey of, getting into the industry 20 years now and 21 years, and now you're a vice president and you're at that pre-FDA approval stage with Proverum, and we'll go into what they do. But when you look back right now, I know it's got to be exciting, but what comes to mind when you hear it out loud of 20 years
multiple exits, running your own distributorship, to now vice president of a pre-FDA approved
So
company.
I've been a part of multiple exits. They weren't mine,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
mine's coming. So two things come to mind. One, I've always wanted this since the very beginning.
Yeah.
Right? Very beginning, I'm like, I'm going to be a CEO one day.
Yep.
And I'm a firm believer that you are who you are from the very beginning. It's the journey to get there, right? So like my CEO that I report to now is an amazing human. I love this guy so much. I'm like so excited to talk with him every day. He was a CEO long before he was a CEO. It just took him a little while to get the experience to get there. So that's number one. Like, if you want to be whatever it is, you want to be the director of this, you want to be VP of this, like, you're probably already that person.
Yeah.
So have the confidence, right?
Love that.
The other thing, in retrospect, because hindsight's always 20/20, is how not ready I was for this position that I have now 10, 15, 20 years ago, and how much I didn't know.
Yeah.
I had the confidence, which back then was probably arrogance, of that should be me up on stage. I should be the one delivering that. I could do that. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And as time has gone on, and as I've matured and I've learned more and I've grown professionally and grown within these organizations and taking on more roles of responsibility, that's when you have the perspective of, holy crap, like, I didn't know what I didn't know.
Yeah.
Now I realize, like, I don't have the skills yet to take that next step. Let me focus on this.
Yep.
I'm still going to be a CEO.
Yep.
I know that's going to happen, but I got to do all this other stuff first. And I think those are the two big things is, you got to be realistic with yourself and know what you don't know.
And how do you feel when you realize you don't have the skills? Like when you say, hey, I don't have the skills, and I just say that because we hear.
I'm so happy.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm so happy.
You have something to drive towards.
Now I know what I got to work on.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
You can't fix what you don't know is not broken.
Yep.
So when I identify a skill set that I don't have, I don't get frustrated. I don't get upset. I'm just excited. I'm like, okay, now I know I gotta round this out over here.
Yeah. And I love that because, you can see a lot of people who feel like they have a I made it place, right? Which some people do, right? Like you make it and it works for you.
If you make it, you make it. Great.
Yeah, and you're happy. That's great. But I think one thing that I really love talking to more entrepreneurial minded, even though you're in the world, is, hey, what can I continue to learn? What can I continue to grow in? And like you said, you're going to do this for another 15 plus years. Like, hey, I just want to continue to get to the next stage.
Yep.
And that's the stepping stones. And I think that's, like you said, I'm currently learning that as you're the young guy and you're like, I'm going to do this, you do it. And then you realize you're like, oh, I'm actually way farther than I actually thought. Where most people will be like, well, I'm not willing to put in the work.
Right.
But like, I always love one of the guys I listen to that lives out here. He actually says, he's like, you're buying your ignorance tax down. And it's like, I just understand I have an ignorance tax of, I don't know this.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to try to buy it down as fast as possible, whether that's mentorship, that's paying people to go, or it's
learning, whatever.
The years
Time.
and the hard work, right? And so it's just doing that. So I love that you say that is, even when you're at the top, right? You're still like, hey, there's going to be things I'm going to have to learn, I'm going to have to work on.
Yeah.
But I get excited about that. And I think there's so much to be said for that.
Yeah.
And so now you're going to be the head of the sales, vice president of sales, and you guys are eventually going to have a team and build out and going through that process. What are you the most excited about with Proverum? And kind of go into detail on what Proverum is.
Yeah, sure.
You guys are at.
So I'll answer that first.
Yeah.
So Proverum is a pre-FDA company right now that is specializing in the BPH space, so in large prostate. And so we have a novel technology coming. Basically, it's like a stent, so similar to like a cardiac stent, to stent the prostate and hold it open. It's very easy on the patient. There's no trauma. We're not burning or resecting or taking any tissue away. It's just a very nice, pain-free or relatively pain-free way to an elegant way to open up that prostate and give the gentleman the relief and ability to urinate again.
I love it.
So it's a great space. When I was younger and I was doing orthopedics, like everybody played ball when they were younger, they have injuries, sports medicine, that's something to relate to me. Now 46 years old, getting up multiple times at night to go to the bathroom, enlarged prostate is something that I'm kind of passionate about now, And so it's a great company. Will most likely be the very first stent for the BPH prostate
Wow.
to the US market, which is really cool. To answer your first question, what am I the most excited about? 100% building the team.
Yeah.
Like for me, it's all about the people.
Yep.
I am like so excited. Like every day I'm on LinkedIn, I'm looking at candidates. I'm going through my Rolodex. I'm calling people. Hey, what about so-and-so? What about her? Is she available? Like, man, that's the most exciting part to me. Like I love building the team and getting to like create the culture of the company. That's so cool. It's so cool.
I love that. When you say you're building the culture, like what's the focus for you on building the culture of a sales team?
Yeah. So I have to have fun with whatever I'm doing.
Yeah.
Like I like to joke around, right? I try and keep things light and keep things relatable with people. So I like people that kind of match that energy, right? I don't want anybody that takes themselves too seriously, right? That's it's just not going to jive well.
Yep.
From my CEO to one of the founders of the company on down, that's the culture that kind of was in place already.
Yep.
They're very real, raw,
Love it.
just cool people. And so that's really important to me. So the other thing I'm looking for is highly skilled, highly capable people.
Yep.
That's the one unfortunate thing at a startup like this. I don't really have the luxury of giving somebody their first shot.
Yes.
It's not that type of company, right? We're on too short of a timeline. We have to produce too quickly for me to like take somebody that's new to the industry and teach them. So that's kind of a bummer.
Yes.
But I'm looking for a very specific skill set, highly capable people, like I said, that are very fun. I do want entrepreneurial people.
Yep.
I want people that are very genuine and really put the patient first. So that's really that culture that I'm looking for. It's very high functioning, have fun, lighthearted, but really has their eye on the ball.
Yeah, got to get it done.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I love that because like you said, you want to give everyone a shot, but you have to understand what stage of the business you always are at.
You have to do what's right for your company.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
And so what's right for my company right now, unfortunately, is just not that. We're not that type of company.
Yep.
When I was at Axonics and we were well commercialized for a number of years and we had a ton of revenue and we had a ton of money in the bank and the stock was doing well.
Yep.
I had the opportunity in our clinical specialist division to give people an opportunity. Like there was a nurse,
Yep.
she had been in the OR for X number of years and I got to give her the chance. There was another nurse and he was working over here in this clinic. Like that was so awesome. And, I think had I stayed at Boston, that probably would have been something that would have brought me a lot of joy because Boston has sales associates and entry-level sales positions.
Yep.
And that's a normal part of their business. And they're a very well-established business with a huge book of business. And they're on very solid ground. And so they have that luxury. That probably would have been something that would have brought me a lot of joy, being able to give a lot of people their shot in med device sales. So that might come in the future.
Yep.
It's just not in the cards for where I'm at right now.
No, and that makes so much sense. But I just get excited for you because like you said, you're at the place where you guys are going to get FDA approval here soon.
Oh, very soon.
And then when that happens, it's like, let's get going. Let's start getting people on and let's start making a difference in people's lives. And like you get that opportunity and I get really excited for you because I can see how passionate you are about it. And so one of the questions I really wanted to ask you is, as you reflect on the last 21 years and where you're at today and all the things, what do you feel your biggest takeaway is at this point? And what's a takeaway you hope to have here in the future?
So probably as I reflect back, it's funny, I was just talking to my good buddy Ben about this a few weeks ago. My biggest takeaway so far is there's been times in my career where something happened and at the time it was catastrophic. And I just thought it was just going to be terrible. And then looking back, it was the best thing that ever happened to me, right? And it's always hard to recognize those moments when you're in them. But I just truly think with every setback comes just a tremendous amount of opportunity. Mm-hmm. And I'm so grateful for those. There was times I was passed up for promotion, but that made it easy for me to go and take a shot and go do Contour and Bulkamed, right? Maybe I didn't get this job, but then this other door opened. so just, I'm very grateful for those opportunities that in the moment, it was kind of same thing. When I got quit from Stryker, I'm like, oh my gosh, I finally got in the industry and now I'm out. But that allowed me to learn about a distributorship and cut my teeth and, you know, learn all these amazing things and grow a small little company and sell it. Man, I'm so fortunate. Right.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the biggest takeaway, is to be in the moment and not let anything, whether it's catastrophic or not let it take me off the path. And I think that's important for everybody, because I don't care who you are. Not every year is going to be a President's Club year. You're not going to sell more this year than you did the year before. You're not going to make more this year than you did the year before every year. You're going to have peaks and valleys. And I think it's important to, like, in that moment, when you're faced with adversity, don't let it take you off your game. Like, keep running your race. Right. So that's probably the biggest takeaway.
That's such good. I love that you are able to reflect on that piece, because like you said, you've now been able to see it play out multiple times, and many times when we are in those aspects, you can't see it, but you've now been able to be like, what a blessing, when you thought it was a curse, right? And where you're at now in your future, you still have 15 plus years. You know, what's the takeaway you hope that you're saying 15 years from now that you got?
You know, I think I'm already starting to kind of realize as well. I think I took for granted when I was younger how important a stable home life was. Like, my wife is just, like, amazing with our kids, and, like, I'm so fortunate. Like, I can leave, I can fly out of town for 4 or 5 days at a time, and I don't have to worry about anything. It lets me really focus on the task at hand. And I think looking forward 15 years from now, 10 years from now, I'll probably look back and realize any success that I've been lucky enough to have is not my success. It's the family's success. It's that support system, it's success, but it's also all of the other people that have been with me along the journey on the professional side. It's everybody's success. Because just like I said before, the most important thing in any company is the people. Same thing at home, right? Like, you have to kind of have things dialed in. And I think 15 years from now, I'll probably look back and be so very grateful for all the professional people that helped me and supported me along the way, and all the people on the personal side, whether it's my wife and kids and family and things like that.
That's so good. I really appreciate that answer, because it's, you know, being young, and we have a lot of people that are young and hungry, you know, sometimes you feel like you might have to make sacrifices, or there's certain things that
you do. I mean, I've made a lot of them.
Exactly. But I think one of the things, you made sacrifice, but you had somebody now that's willing to let you make the sacrifices, because they trust you, and it's all playing out. But I love that. I'm learning that as well. Like we talked about, is like, relationships is the number one. You can have a bunch of talent, you can do all the aspects, but if your relationships aren't that strong, and especially in business, it can get tough if you don't have those relationships. No, I love that. Now, we have listeners, like I said, that are trying to break into the industry. But we have people that are also in the industry that have been in for maybe 1, 3, 5 years. Like, just to any of them listening, like, what's your advice to these people, whether it's breaking into medical device sales, or like, you give really great life advice as well that usually will turn into professional advice. Like, what's your advice to the person that's listening right now?
Well, first off, I think if you're in med device and you're in whatever company, in whatever division, in whatever specialty, and you're not fulfilled, and there's something in the back of your mind saying maybe I should look somewhere else, or you're not happy, then I think you should, right? You gotta listen to your gut, and don't be afraid. You know, there's something to be said for building your brand in one specialty, but man, there's a lot of cool specialties out there. There's a lot of cool products. There's a lot of cool different avenues. And I think it's important not to kind of pigeonhole yourself. You know, I was very fortunate when I was at Axonics. There was a lot of people, both from executive leadership, like our whole executive team had never worked in urology ever. And they created the most successful urology startup, and it was the biggest urology exit ever. But man, there was a ton of reps and other area sales directors that had come from orthopedics, or they came from pain, or they came from whatever, and they were so successful, right? And I think it comes down to the person, right? And if you're truly good and you're not fulfilled in doing what you're doing, don't get stuck, right? Don't be the rep that's like stuck doing suture sales or whatever it is for 20 years, right? I mean, have the courage. You're good. Have the courage and have that mental fortitude to kind of branch out and maybe go try something else, because you never know. Like, I did it myself, right? When I left spine and ortho and I went into urology, I had no idea, 10 years later or 15 years later, I'm sorry, it was going to turn into what it has now.
Yeah.
Right. And I think there's a lot of people that could be in that same boat.
And I think what people miss is a lot of times they feel maybe inadequate. They're good at this one specialty, so they don't want to try another specialty.
Yeah.
But
well, it doesn't feel good going back to being the new kid on the block and not knowing anything, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Exactly. But what I've also seen is that's actually sometimes the competitive edge, because some people will continue to just hire within the.
Well, I think that new challenge and knowing that you don't have this 5 years or whatever worth of history to fall back on and knowledge, that can be like rocket fuel, right? Like, you have to learn a new product, you have to learn new anatomy, new procedure, new call points, new doctors, new sales cycle. That can be very invigorating. And, making that change might be kind of it might be that rocket fuel that you need at that moment in your career.
Yeah. It's the action, it's the work. It gets you
stimulated.
Exactly. Right? Yeah. Get you going to the next level.
Yeah. There's nothing worse than, I mean, I shouldn't say that. It's cruise control is cool and it's fun. Like, I did that pretty early in my urology career when I got things dialed in. I was very comfortable, and that's when I had, gotten married and I was starting to have kids, and I didn't have to travel, and I did dinners and stuff like that out, a couple times a week, but I was home and I was coasting. But that was appropriate for my time
at the time,
in my life, right? And sometimes for some people, man, maybe they need to coast forever. But I think for most people, they don't want to coast. No. Right? They want to be challenged, and a challenge is good.
They start feeling it, right? Like you said, I think there's seasons of lives, right? We always have those seasons, but many people, especially the human beings in medical device sales, the type A's, like, we're always chasing the next challenge. Yeah. And I think what people miss a lot of times is a lot of outside individuals will be like, why are you doing this? Is it the money? But it's never the money. It's the challenge. It's figuring something new. It's hey, can I figure this out? And that's how a lot of us are wired, of like, I've never had this role, so let me see if I can actually do it.
I mean, that's what I love about being on the startup side. And it's probably similar for what you're doing. You're building a company, you're building a brand, you're branching out into other areas. Everything is new. So like, it's a challenge and you're stimulated and you love it. It's the same thing with what I do. Like, when I walk into, like, for Proverum, for instance, like, we're not even in our office yet. Like, we have a US office that we take occupancy January 1st. I love it that nothing's in place yet. I get to kind of have my fingerprints on everything. I get to help everything. It's so stimulating. It's so challenging. I'm back to putting in 14, 15-hour days minimum. I'm back to waking up in the middle of the night on a Saturday and grabbing, my notebook and writing this down, because I woke up at 3 a.m. I'm like, oh, I can't forget that. That's how I know that I'm doing the right thing. When I get to the point where the day ends and I'm not thinking about work, I'm probably not in the best situation anymore. Like, I need to be constantly thinking about it, because that's how I know, like, I'm super stimulated and I'm engaged. I love that. And to me, it's like, it's addicting. Right? It really is.
And it's what makes you, right? Falling in love of the process of what you're doing. Because if we're going to spend our time doing it, why not do it to the best of our ability and give everything we have to it?
If you're a builder, you have to build. Not everybody's a builder, and that's totally fine. But if you are, get in a position to build. I probably wish, and again, like, hindsight is always 20/20. I'm so happy with how things turned out. I had some opportunities to leave when I was on cruise control. I had some opportunities to leave and go to some other startups that I didn't. Who knows if I made the right decision? Sometimes I'm like, I should have done that. And other times I'm like, it's really probably good I didn't. But what I will tell people is, if you're scared to leave whatever cushy med device job you're in, speaking of those people that have been in for 3, 4 years, 5 years, whatever, and you're scared to go and take a chance at a startup, I would strongly urge you to take that leap. Like, the worst case scenario is it doesn't work out in a year or two and you just go back and get another job at whatever other company. Good reps always find jobs. Heck, even bad reps always find jobs. So like, if you're good, like you're gonna be fine, you know. And what you don't want is, you don't want 10 years, 15 years, 20 years to go by and you look back and go, man, I should have done that. I should have tried that, because it gets exponentially harder the older you get. Right?
Yep. I think that's the line that actually drives my life, as Gary Vee talks about it. He's like, you want to change your life, go talk to people at the nursing home. And he's like, they'll just tell you all of the regrets they have. Yeah. And for me, that's actually been about all of this, right? Same thing. When I left and I started this full time and we're doing, everyone's like, why would you do this? I'm like, well, because I can always go back, but I won't be able to look back at my life and say, I wish I would have.
You know, that is a really good perspective. When I think about it, most of the things I regret from my past are the decisions I didn't make or the things I didn't do. I very rarely regret things that I did.
Yep.
And so I think that's pretty telling as well.
Yeah, no, you're spot on, because I think that's what people do is we play up here way more than if we just would jump and find out. Yeah. And then what happens is, like you said, hindsight's 20/20, and you get past it and we never know. Right. Right. But that's what I've always just thought of, is for everyone listening, whether we all know and we can feel in our gut when things are done. Yeah. We know, our body tells us when it's like, hey, you know, maybe you should try something new, right? Yeah. But a lot of times it goes back to comfortable, or change can be scary, change can be uncomfortable. But how I really wanted to wrap this up today is you're the vice president. You've been a part of multiple exits. You have 21 years experience. Can you just tell our listeners what you're about to do tomorrow or this week?
Yeah. So today I was running around on conference calls from about 6 a.m. my time until right up until I came here to see you. That's why I'm probably pretty underdressed. I just didn't have any time. Tomorrow I'm going to jump on an airplane. I'm going to fly to California. We have a big meeting. I have a new hire out there, one of my new regional sales directors. Yep. Meeting with him and our director of training. We're going to do a day of training for him. We have a dinner with Kaiser. We're meeting with all their urology chiefs. So that's going to be an awesome dinner. Then we're going to drive to El Centro, California, and we're going to meet with a physician. We're going to meet with a CEO and a CFO of a hospital. Then we're going to do dinner that night with the physician and his staff. And then the next day, hopefully we'll have FDA approval next week as well. So there's going to be some other things that kind of get thrown on my plate. Yep. The next day will be Friday. I'll fly home. And we have to get working on the next week's schedule, which will be probably 4, if we're lucky, 4 or 5, hopefully, physician and hospital meetings with what will be some of our first customers. So
I love it, because I want everyone to hear the grind doesn't stop.
Oh no, yeah.
Especially when you're passionate about it, you love it.
Planes, trains, and automobiles
all the time. And Angelo, I just really want you to know how much I appreciate it. I know you're busy. Thank you for taking time. Yeah. But I know this is
awesome, man. And it's been awesome to watch you and your success. Like, I distinctly remember when you reached out to me. That's when I was at Axonics. We didn't have anything in your market. Yep. And I talked to you. I looked back through our text messages and our LinkedIn messages as well. And just to see what you've done is awesome. I can never do what you do. Like, I'm a very private person. I've never had any social media aside from LinkedIn. Like, I've never had Facebook. I've never had Twitter or Instagram or anything like that. But to see what you've been able to do, and truly you've been able to do it from the outside looking in, it looks like just by connecting with people and just giving them an inside look into you and your life and what you got going on. It's really cool to watch.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you so much. It's just, my whole goal was, I know what it's like to be on the other side. Yeah. And, I think there's a world we live in sometimes that wants to let people know they're better than other human beings. Sure. Instead of being like, hey, I was in your spot, and if I can do it, my whole goal has been like, if I can do it, if I can get in rooms with VPs and all this stuff, why can't you? Correct. Like, just put that energy in there. So I really appreciate that support. And again, just even taking time, because it's been fun to just learn more about your journey and learn about your success. And it's easy to see why you're so successful. But as someone who just selfishly young gets to watch and learn and be in these rooms and conversations, like, I've taken away so much today. Oh, I'm sure. And I hope all of you have taken notes to have your success in the future. But I just want to say thank you again for just taking the time, and I can't wait to see everything you accomplish as the VP of sales in the next 5 years for you. Likewise, man. I can't wait to see where you go from here. You got some good stuff going on, and he's a good one to listen to for sure. I appreciate it. Well, guys, Thank you so much. Hopefully this was helpful. Press that like and subscribe button. If this was helpful for you all, please share it with friends, family, and just understand if you guys are looking to break into medical device sales and want to learn more, you can click the link below. But just understand, we're all about providing value. You know that it's possible. Whether you are a rep or you're wanting to break into the industry, just know, get around people that can help you, that push you, that challenge you, and just bet on yourself. We'll see you on the next one.
That was awesome, man.